Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A session. Hey, Alex. Hey, Briana.
Hey.
Hi.
Where are you
Yeah.
Okay. So we got a good amount of people on already. Short notice call. So that's great.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to just introduce Alex and Briana. They are obviously co-creators of the Fat Loss Blueprint program with me, and I hired them specifically because they have a huge amount of expertise in the topic of fat loss and body composition optimization, and also health more broadly. And they're just two of the most brilliant minds that I've ever known within this space of health. And they're as obsessed with the science of health as I am. And I see them, for years. I've been friends with them on Facebook, constantly seeing them post and debate the science. And they have similar interests to me. And so we started to working together, and it was just a great fit. And then we had this idea to do the Fat Loss Blueprint program. And it's been just we ended up putting together this program over the course of a year, and it's just a phenomenal, amazing program. And it's just bar none the best program in existence on the subject of fat loss. That's not just a diet, not just an exercise program. It's the most comprehensive, evidence-backed program in existence on the subject of fat loss. And what's really cool is, I've been doing fat loss stuff for over 20 years, and I've obviously accumulated a lot of knowledge in that time, but Alex and Briana also have been studying this for many, many, many years, and they have unique areas of expertise and specialization that are different from mine. So the combination of the three of us producing this program has just led to something epic. So with that said, I want to stick around briefly as we get started with this Q&A session to see if there's anybody who has questions uniquely for me specifically. I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want people to show up with questions for me and then leave you hanging and take off. But this session is mostly going to be Alex and Briana, and I'm going to hang around for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, answer any questions if you have them for me, and then I'm going to let them take over for the rest of this. So hey, Ellen, Edward, Mary, welcome everyone. If you guys want to comment, just let us know where you're, first of all, that you can see and hear us, and also just let us know where you're from. Say hi. And go ahead and start asking some questions. Again, if you have questions unique for me, please post those now, because I'm only going to stick around very briefly. Not because I don't want to, but I want this to focus on Alex and Briana. You guys are already, me, you're sick of me.
I don't know if that's possible.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure it is. I'm sure you could. I mean, we did it was almost 3 hours that I stuck around in the Q&A session a couple days ago. And then it was funny. I left, I went on baby duty. I took my dog for a walk, and then I came back and just checked on the screen. I was sure that you had done. And then I was sure that you had finished. And then I see you still there answering questions. And I was like, Alex, I love you, dude. You're amazing, but it's time to end it. I know you want to give and give and give, but you're going to exhaust yourself and skip your dinner here.
Yeah, well, they put a 4-hour limit on the recording time, so
wow.
it's impossible to go over 4 hours. So
there you go. I didn't know that. I think the longest I've ever gone is like 3.5. So I've never encountered the 4-hour limit. Okay, so hi, Shida from Chile. My wife is actually from Chile as well. Christine. Okay, she said, hi, Deborah from London. Okay, we got a couple questions here. Let's start with Mary. That's the first one. She said, what epigenetic protocol do you recommend for someone born with a mutant gene that thickens and clots in the blood more easily? Alex and Briana have more knowledge around specific genes than I do, and they might know you might be referring to like Leiden factor 5 or something like that. But do you guys want to take this one?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're talking about genetics, one of the most important pieces of information is what gene are we talking about? because it's hard to give a recommendation if we don't know exactly what the mutation's affecting as far as your clotting protocol goes.
Yeah, they could be referring to the K2.
Yeah, when you look at the involvement of, for example, vitamin K, it's a 13-step process that causes your platelets to form a clot in the blood, and mutations can affect any one of those processes. So, I mean, if I'm giving just a general recommendation for someone that is more prone to clotting, then it would involve increasing vitamin K, which will help keep blood more fluid. It involves taking fish oil, which will also thin the blood. Even small doses of baby aspirin can be effective in that regard. Basically, you want to, and staying hydrated.
Yeah, I would say high leafy greens as well.
Yep, high leafy greens. The goal is to keep your blood thinner so that if a clot does form, your blood's not going to have any problem moving right past it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, guys. And okay. Christine said, is it a good idea to take cellular detox binder during or after the infrared sauna? You mean cyto detox specifically? It's a specific zeolite based product. I would say take it before your sauna session. It's going to stay in your system throughout the sauna session and still be there after. So I would say just the sooner you can get it in your system, the better during the whole sauna session, and perhaps more effective in a fasted state. I think you guys have a visitor back there.
Yeah, she's sitting back there viewing, trying to get our attention.
She's trying to steal your thunder is what she's doing.
The problem is that she's actually smart enough to where we went and put her in the bedroom, but she knows how to turn door handles.
Oh, jeez.
So she can actually open doors now, and so it'll only last for maybe 10 to 20 minutes.
Okay. Robin from Maryland. Not concerned, just listening here. Okay. Carol said, I'm looking at the fat loss blueprint and energy blueprint. I can't afford both. Which would be better and why? Totally depends on your goals. If you are, let me try and give you a very succinct answer. If you are very overweight, it is possible that the main factor in your energy levels, in your chronic fatigue, might be your body composition. And so just improving your metabolic health by losing body fat could be the key thing that really transforms your overall health, your metabolic health, and your energy levels. On the other hand, if you are already pretty lean, and let's say you just have a little bit of fat to lose, like you're 5 to 10 pounds overweight, but you're not remarkably overweight, you don't have a huge amount of excess body fat, but you're struggling with energy levels, and improving your energy levels is the big thing that you want to achieve, then go with the energy blueprint. So that's the succinct answer. Zarina, that's a cool name. If someone with fatigue gets overexerted from trying to walk and exercise is in a lot more pain and fatigue, is there anything to do to help recover, and should they keep trying to exercise? Okay, I'm going to let Alex and Briana take that one. I'm going to just see one more time. If for everybody listening, if you have any questions unique to me, please ask them now, and I'll try and address them, and then I'm going to take off. Christine said, since you mentioned a fasted state, would you do the cyto detox before the infrared sauna, before going to sleep? Thanks for your attention to the nuances. I think you can take it 2 to 3 times a day. So I would say both would be the simple answer. Sarah, fasting in women, good or bad? Better postmenopausal versus premenopausal? Briana, what do you think?
I think that it depends on the person. A lot of women can't get their calories in a fasting window. So, I mean, it would be best to work towards getting a fast in, but in the beginning, like, I have to see how much you're eating really to be able to answer that. And as far as postmenopausal or premenopausal, I treat that the same, because you should be optimized. We should have your hormones optimized is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the one thing I would add to that too is, again, when we're talking about fasting, we're talking about intermittent fasting, and preferably we're talking about things like time restricted eating.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, which is the fundamental like tenet of eating in line with your circadian rhythm. One of the biggest drivers of chronic disease is people eating throughout the day, frequently, every couple hours throughout the day and late into the night. And, you know, we address research in the fat loss blueprint that where researchers actually have people from the general population use a specialized smartphone app where they have to take pictures of all the food they eat. They get constant push notifications to remind them to eat. And what it shows is that, you know, in the general population, people are eating on average for 15 to 16 hours throughout the day. And when you consider that people should be getting, you know, 8 hours of sleep, they're basically eating from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed. And so we have an entire lesson in the fat loss blueprint that deals specifically with how to optimize the eating window and how to take advantage of that painlessly.
Yeah, I think a lot of women have issues though because their stomachs are small or they've been taught to eat very small portions. And so it is hard to get even minimal dieting calories in 3 meals during a fasting window. And that's when you run into issues, not necessarily fasting for women per se.
Well, this is a point that Ari and I have talked about in the past, and it was specifically when I was working with him on the nutrition modules for the energy blueprint. And it's that it's not about jumping in. You're not going to be jumping into the middle of the ice cold ocean. You're going to be wading your way in from shoreline. And so when we talk about these things in the fat loss blueprint, we aren't expecting you to just dive in head first. I mean, if that works for you, then great. But for a lot of people, it's about inching your way closer and closer to optimal and making small progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Real quick, Paula's asking about best red light panel recommendations for brands. Paula, I'm just going to link to my article on the subject. There's a few good reputable brands. I would recommend going with a reputable brand, and there's maybe 4 or 5 of them at this point. Be aware that there are many non-reputable brands, and that there's a huge issue of people misrepresenting the facts on the power output of these devices. So you can't just go by, unfortunately, I wish this was the case, but you really cannot just go by whatever people say are the power density or radiance numbers, the light output numbers on their websites, because when those lights have actually been put to the test in third-party lab measurements, they're often 50 or 70% lower than the numbers they're claiming on the website. So, so basically the simple guide to this is, number 1, get a reputable brand. From there, get the biggest and most expensive light that is within your budget. That's the most simple answer. Beyond, I will also say, there are light devices that go into the thousands of dollars, that go up to $5,000, $10,000. There are even, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 devices. The facts are, in terms of the actual light output from these devices, you're not going to get much further benefit by going beyond getting, let's say, a $1,500 or $2,000 device at the high end. Like, the difference between the $1,500 devices and the $50,000 devices is very, very small. So if you have $1,500 to spend, awesome, you can get a really big, amazing light device. If you only have $400 or so, $450 to spend, you can still get a solid light device. If you have less than that to spend, I would say, generally speaking, don't waste your time, because just it's better to save up and get at least the devices in the $400, $450 range, so that you get something of quality that is sizable enough to do efficient treatment sessions in a fast period of time on a large percentage of your body area. So I give a few good brand recommendations. I just posted the link to the article there. Okay, let me just scroll up and see if there are any other questions unique for me. And if not, I am going to take off and let you guys do your thing. Okay, I think that's it. I don't see any questions unique for me. So Alex and Briana, take over. Enjoy, guys. Have fun. And yeah, again, so for everybody who's joined since I gave the initial intro, just be aware Briana has unique expertise in women's health issues, hormone issues, women's fat loss issues. So if you have any of those things going on, ask away, and you are in good hands. These are extremely knowledgeable, amazing health experts, fat loss experts. So enjoy, have fun, guys.
Thanks, Ari.
Bye.
All right, so we're gonna jump back a little bit because I don't believe the question by Zarina was answered, and she asks, if someone with fatigue gets overexerted from trying to walk or exercise and is in a lot more pain and fatigue, is there anything to do to help recover? Should they keep trying to exercise? And the answer to that is no. Exercise is a hormetic stress, and that means that you need to find the sweet spot. You can't do too little because there won't be any benefit, but you can't do too much because then you start to actually damage yourself. And for someone who has chronic fatigue or just high levels of fatigue in general, that threshold between doing just the right amount and doing too much is much more, is much wider. So it's a lot easier to pass into it. And so, Zarina, what I would recommend is that you want to do, as much exercise or walking in a day that you can tolerate, but then take a day or two off to recover and then repeat. And it's by cycling through that, hitting the sweet spot and then letting yourself recover. The recovery period is when your body starts to, boost mitochondrial biogenesis, energy production, and lay down more muscle tissue, so that the next time you go for a walk or exercise, you can do even more than before. And it's an add-on. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, though, go off of how they feel, like, emotionally. And some people never feel like exercising. That's just, they have it framed in the wrong way, right? Mm-hmm. That it's a chore. And so it really depends on the reason why they're getting so fatigued, too.
Yeah, I think that's...
Like, if you're going a week in between sessions where you feel like it takes you that long to recover, then maybe you should do a mild walk every 2 days or something, because that's more reasonable to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really, really good point she brings up. And we have a whole lesson in the Fat Loss Blueprint on the dieting mindset. And it's things like that where you need to understand what your innate cognitive biases are. And that goes with exercise too, because maybe it's not actual physical fatigue that keeps you from, exerting yourself. Maybe it's a psychological barrier that you need to overcome. And
an example of that would be a mother that is stressed out raising kids, and at the end of the day, when she is supposed to walk, she's just emotionally drained because everyone needs everything from her.
Yeah, and so instead of thinking like, I'm just too tired to do this, it's shifting your mindset and saying, I finally have a moment to take care of myself rather than taking care of someone else. And that can help motivate you to really do what needs to be done, but what is difficult. And I also want to add that there is an add-on to the Fat Loss Blueprint, and that's the Strength Blueprint. And it gives you 4 different levels, depending on where your fitness level and your energy levels are at, to start exercising. And the very first level is designed for people that struggle with fatigue. And so it's designed to work with you, to help get you up off the ground and get moving in a very healthy and advantageous way. Okay, so now moving up. Here's one by, I might butcher your name, so I apologize, Soraya. How long do you have to use red light therapy for weight loss? Should you use red light therapy before or after workouts? So in the research on red light therapy, it is used medically to help contour the body and actually help make liposuction more effective because it helps dissolve fat cells. It's used for 30 minutes every other day. at an intensity that actually equates just being in summer sun around the equator. So you can use a red light therapy, or you could just go sunbathe for 30 minutes if your skin tone tolerates it, because you don't want to burn.
I would say when I'm getting ready for a photo shoot, I put red light directly on my abdominal area, because that's where women have a little fat, right? And
Yeah.
my hips and my thighs too.
Yeah, and that's what they do in body contouring, is they target it to the area. So when you have the red light shining on where you want it to help reduce fat mass, then do it for about 30 minutes. That could add up to quite a bit of time if, for example, you do 30 minutes on your stomach, 30 minutes on your butt, 30 minutes on each side of your hip. It can add up to a bit of time. So it might be easier to...
They have the Juve wall units too that would reduce the time.
Yeah, if you have a larger unit, you can hit more of your body at once with an adequate clinical dose. And as far as before or after the workout, that's completely unrelated to fat loss. If you use it before doing exercise, it can help boost exercise performance, especially if you're doing any form of cardio training. And if you use it after the workout, it can help reduce muscle damage and soreness and aid in recovery.
Yeah, I think consistency is the key there. And most of my clients have an easier time adding it to their morning routine because their motivation is high. And so I usually have them add it into their morning routine wherever their exercise is, just because it sticks that way.
Yes. Okay. All right. This is a big one from Mon. Firstly, huge thank you for all you do. I am so grateful for your program and to finally get help. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that we can help. My question: I've been on a keto and intermittent fasting diet for half a year, and I lost 17 to 22 pounds. I am very happy with the weight loss, but what I had to do was not sustainable. I was on a 4 to 5 hour eating window, 2 meals per day, and the minimal amount of fat and protein possible. I felt utterly hungry, exhausted, and dizzy, but I was determined and thought at some point that I would run on ketones, as they say, and that my hunger would have to go away. I think I was also too low on calories, as in 4 hours I could not eat that many and keep my fat on the lower side. I looked like I had a lot of muscle loss. I am so happy to hear that you say you can lose weight without being on low carbs. I was eating 20 to 50 grams. I would like to be on a diet with more variety, including many foods, but I don't want to regain the weight. I have already regained some as I eat more. I started getting intense, maybe it continues. I started getting intense afternoon food cravings where I just can't control myself and overeat. I also eat a big breakfast now, thanks to the Energy Blueprint program, which I am on, and that's much better. Less hunger. I seem to be struggling with feeling satiated after eating. How many calories a day should I eat? How can I transition from a keto low carb diet with no grains to a more holistic diet, including fruits, grains, and variety? How can I introduce these foods without weight gain? If I have more carbs, do I have to eat less fat than on keto? I'm a 45-year-old female, 5'8", and was mostly grain-free for 6 years to heal a gut autoimmune problem, which was healed with a fecal transplant. So the first thing I want to do is, that was a lot of information. Thank you for writing it all out. That helps fill in a lot of context. I don't know if we're going to be able to answer every part of it, just because there was a lot to that. The one part that I do want to start with is I want to talk about glycogen. And the reason I want to talk about that is because you're telling us that you want to start eating more carbohydrates again, including fruits, grains, and variety, but you want to do it without gaining weight. So what you need to understand when you start eating those foods is that you're probably going to gain 5 to 10 pounds within a week. And that's not fat. For every single gram of glycogen that you store in your muscle and your liver, you're also going to store 3 grams of water, because that's required to store glycogen.
Carbohydrate.
Yeah,
That's how I remember it.
Yeah, say that here.
Carbohydrate.
Yeah, it's a carbohydrate, water. So you're going to gain 5 to 10 pounds as your muscle and liver glycogen refills. But that's just pure water weight. And if anything, it's going to make you look more full. It's going to make your muscles pop more because they're going to have more.
Your face doesn't look
stuff.
as hollow because you have more moisture in your skin. Like, it leads to a bunch of good things.
But you're going to gain weight. It's inevitable, but it's not fat. It's just water. And it's normal and it's healthy. So
the first thing I was thinking of with the comment too is insulin signaling, right? Like, that's probably why she isn't satiated ever if she's on a keto diet. Not only is it low protein, but I was thinking there's no insulin signaling either.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on here. So first and foremost, if you want satiety, you need to eat a sufficient amount of protein, regardless of what diet you're following. The idea that you would get satiated by having high levels of blood ketones isn't well supported in the evidence. More than anything, satiety on a ketogenic diet seems to just be individual. Because both myself and Briana, when we have tried a ketogenic diet, we're just ravenously hungry and we have like starvation level ketones in our blood.
And we can eat limitless amounts of fat.
Yeah, we can eat unlimited fat and never get full,
yep.
But our waistlines show it. For both of us, actually, eating higher carbohydrate diets and high protein diets are very satiating. So it's definitely an individual thing. And some people are going to do well with it, some people aren't. But what seems to be consistent and clear in the scientific research is that you want to eat an adequate amount of protein, regardless of the diet you're on, to help with satiety. Now, Briana mentioned insulin signaling, and that's another important component because there's a lot of misconceptions around insulin. People think that having any insulin response in the body is harmful, and that's simply not true. Having a normal increase and decrease in insulin when you eat carbohydrates is just normal physiology. And insulin is one of the most potent satiety signals there is in the brain. So by depriving yourself of carbohydrate, you are depriving yourself of one of those satiety signals. For many people who say that low carb diets actually do increase satiety, it's usually because they have some form of metabolic dysfunction and insulin resistance, and that includes in the brain. So obviously they aren't going to be satiated when they eat carbohydrates because their brain satiety center isn't responding to insulin.
I think a lot of that too is the choice of carbs that those people choose. And of course you don't feel super satiated when you're eating bread or other hyperpalatable acellular processed carbohydrates. Yeah.
But when you think of carbohydrates like fruits, especially berries, apples, that type of thing, whole grains like oatmeal, oat bran, quinoa.
I got you.
Yeah. And then things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, other roots and tubers, all of those are very satiating foods. So what I would say is, we can't tell you how many calories you need to eat because that's dependent on.
We would need way more information.
Numerous different factors about you and your activity levels.
And we would do that in the fat loss program.
Yeah. And what we can do though, is if you provide us with that information, not in this Q&A session, but if you get the program and you get access, lifetime access to a Facebook group where myself, Briana, and Ari are sitting there to answer your questions and help you. The Facebook group itself is worth 100 times more than the value of the program itself, because that's the place where you can go to get the information that we put out in the program and have it be directly applied to you. Because everyone's different, and there's no possible way we could cover everyone's differences in that program itself. So where we make up for that is we say, look, here's the template for everyone, but you're going to be different on some things. You're definitely going to be different than that person. You might be more similar to that person, but you're your own human. And so we want to help directly apply this information to you by answering the questions that apply to you in the Facebook group. So I want to quickly scan this to see if there's another part that we should touch on. And frankly, it doesn't really look like it. What I would recommend is on your keto diet, it sounds like you were in a pretty extreme deficit. So what I would say is start eating more carbohydrates. Aim for 150 grams of carbohydrates. Start there, because that'll prevent ketosis and that'll start to refill your glycogen. Increase your protein intake. I don't know how much you weigh, but however much you weigh in pounds, divide that number by 2.2. That'll give you your weight in kilograms. And then take that weight in kilograms and multiply it by 1.5. That will give you how many grams of protein you should be aiming for each day, assuming that you are slightly overweight. Okay?
I would probably toggle fat down too.
And if you're eating a lot of fat, reduce it as you increase protein and carbs. But if you were eating very little fat and basically just starving yourself, then try to aim for 40 grams of fat per day. And don't focus on weight loss right now as you make this transition. You can lose weight. You can start losing weight in the next 2 weeks. But at this moment, let's just get your body on a different track. Let's restore that glycogen. Let's reestablish some satiety signals in your body. And once we've gotten you at a new, better baseline, then let's start to dive in and focus on fat loss. Okay, so that was a long one. Thankfully, we have plenty of time and a lot more questions to talk about. Soraya, on the last call, it was mentioned to use red light therapy and vitamin A for cellulite. Is there a specific vitamin A cream that you recommend?
Well, I think the best vitamin A cream would be one that you got from your dermatologist, and they'll know what to give you. It's retinol. That's what you should ask for. I was listening into the call last time, and I was like, Yohimbine cream is like the best for cellulite around, I don't know what areas you have, but I'm guessing your butt and your thighs. That's where a lot of women carry their fat. And we have more A2 receptors in that area. Women do. And so if you put a Yohimbine cream on that area, which they have some on Amazon, I could link you in the group if you tag me too. That helps a lot with the cellulite.
Yeah, so I'll expand on that just a little bit. So first, the reason that you want that vitamin A cream from the dermatologist, if possible, is because that will be prescription grade. So it's going to be stronger.
You can't get the strength that you would need over the counter. It's illegal. So that's why I suggested that.
Yeah, and so I still have it on my to-do list to write an entire cellulite section for our fat loss program, because I think that's important for a lot of women to have, and I will give step-by-step instructions in that. So in the future, I might have a better answer for you on this. But at the moment, I don't know if, over-the-counter vitamin A creams are going to be strong enough to impact cellulite. I just don't know that.
Yeah, answer. I think that they're heavily overpriced for what you get over the counter.
So for now, dermatologist grade vitamin A cream.
And they'll refer to it as retinol cream.
Yeah, and it's called retinol cream because the actual name of vitamin A is retinol. So as for the second part with the Yohimbine cream, that works great because you have a lot of A2 receptors in that area, A2 androgenic receptors to be specific. These are receptors that stop fat loss. And so what Yohimbine does is it binds to the receptors and prevents them from being activated. So it's almost like removing your foot pedal from the brake of a car. And obviously you're going to go faster that way if we assume that speed is fat loss. And so it can really help with targeted fat loss in that area.
Women specifically have more of those receptors on their butt and their thighs.
Yep.
That's an evolutionary thing.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rachel, hi there. I have high cholesterol, but am neob overweight. Maybe you're saying not overweight. I'm 64 years old. So, I mean, there could be a lot.
Thyroid function first.
There could be a lot of reasons for high cholesterol. It could be as simple as your diet and what you're eating. It could be something more complex like having low thyroid function. If you get the program isn't going to address that. I mean, weight loss is going to help reestablish healthy blood lipids if you have weight to lose. In this, it doesn't sound like this is the case for you. And so the program's lifestyle could help.
But not overweight could mean just they're over fat, like they're skinny fat, right? And
True.
that could be impacting it because they could be surpassing their personal fat threshold.
Yeah, excellent point. Just because your body weight is considered normal doesn't mean your body composition is. So that's one factor. It could be thyroid, it could be diet. It's really hard to tell. The fat loss program could help if it was related to your body composition. Otherwise, though, you have unlimited access to our brains in the Facebook group that comes with it. And with that, we could definitely help get to the root cause of it and help get your cholesterol back in check without the need for any drugs. Okay, Ari Whitten shared the link in the chat window to the Energy Blueprint guide to Ultimate Guide to Red Light Therapy. And for those of you, by the way, who haven't purchased the Fat Loss Blueprint yet, there should be a little tab called Offers, and we do have it listed in the offers to take you to the sales page to purchase if and when you decide to do that. Nancy, okay, I think that question was answered. Or well, actually, no.
No.
What would be an option to an infrared sauna to get the detox benefits? For example, will a hot bath followed by wrapping myself in towels and climbing under sheets help detox?
Depends on how much you're sweating.
Yeah, so the big thing with detoxing in a sauna, whether it's infrared or a traditional one, is the sweat component. Because when you sweat, you not only excrete metabolites that have been created by the liver as the liver breaks down toxicants floating in your blood, you actually secrete the toxicants themselves, which can help reduce the burden on the liver. So it's hard to say what like an alternative would be. You need to make yourself sweat. And really the best alternative would be to go outside in the desert on a hot day.
I lived in Oregon for 20 years and I know that's not an option. And so the way I sweat is I ran, like that's really the only way that I had available to me because I lived in a remote location. And so I didn't have hot yoga or anything at that time. So, I mean, you just have to find a way to sweat and do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to is you need to get your body to sweat. And so there's a lot of ways to do that.
There's sauna suits too, if like cost is an issue. I don't know why the sauna, like you're asking this, but there's sauna suits that are pretty affordable too that you can get on Amazon.
Or there's little like pop-up saunas where it's, I don't know what material they're made out of, but it's a reflective,
it's the same as material. In sauna suits.
It's the same as in a sauna suit, and it's like a little tent that you pop up and you get inside and it traps the heat so that you can create a sauna inside your house. So that's another option. Janet, do you recommend fasting or regular exercise for fat loss? On this one, it's depending on what type of fast, it's going to be both depending on the type of fasting. So let me explain. Exercise is critically important for fat loss, but only the right types. If the only exercise you're doing is waking up and running, then that's great, but that's not going to help you preserve a lot of muscle mass. What you want to do is engage in resistance training, whether it's using weights, machines, or your own body weight. That is the hormetic stress that is going to tell your body, hey, we need to lay down more muscle or prevent us from losing muscle, because this is challenging and we need to keep that muscle so that we can overcome these challenges in the future. So resistance training is absolutely vital if you want to maximize your fat loss and changes in your body composition as you lose weight. For fasting, intermittent fasting can be very beneficial. Everyone, I think, should be doing time-restricted feeding, which is having a regular overnight fast of 14 to 18 hours. Prolonged fasting that lasts more than 24 hours is not beneficial to body composition at all. And there's no evidence that it has special benefits over just regular dieting or doing exercise. So I do not recommend prolonged fasting. It leads to excessive muscle loss. Anything?
Agreed.
Okay, Christine. Good morning, Briana and Alex. Well, good morning to you too.
Good morning.
Is it possible to lose belly fat that has come as a surprise in perimenopause? Will the fat loss blueprint help with this, or is it more of a hormonal issue where we need to get our hormones checked with subsequent bioidentical hormone replacement?
Okay, so you can't just address the hormones without addressing the other components as well. So yes, I do think it's necessary to get a hormone panel done and see where you stand and get your levels optimized. But that alone isn't going to get rid of belly fat. It will help the process, but it won't get rid of it. So the fat loss program would help with the rest, the remainder.
Yeah, basically when you're going through perimenopause, I mean, your hormones are starting to change. You're starting to see drops. You're starting to see erratic spikes and drops in estrogen and progesterone. And then it eventually tapers off into actual menopause. And that's where both progesterone and estrogen are really low. What happens when that happens is estrogen signals the body to preferentially store fat on the hips and the butt. So and the lack of estrogen means that you're going to preferentially store it on the gut. And that's why guys throughout all of their life, you see them, they store fat on the stomach area, whereas women, they will store it on the hips and the butt up until menopause, because once they lose that estrogen, then their body's like, no, now we need to store it on the stomach because we no longer have estrogen telling us to store it on the hips and the butt.
And this is why it's important, but to get rid of it, you also have to have muscle mass and you have to have your diet on point. So I think that's important.
Yeah, so hormones change body composition in the sense of hormones will determine where on your body fat is stored, but fundamentally hormones are irrelevant to fat loss because, well, let me use bodybuilders as an example. And when you look at men that are dieting down into literally like 4% body fat, their testosterone levels plummet because the body thinks they're starving. So they basically have no testosterone in their body, and yet they're still able to get that lean.
Yeah, and a personal example, like I walked around at 12% body fat for years, which is insane, and I had no estrogen, and I was still super lean.
Hormones don't prevent fat loss. Hormones can make it more difficult by affecting appetite and energy expenditure, but ultimately, as long as you have everything dialed in, like a professional bodybuilder would, you can still lose fat. That doesn't mean it's going to be fun or it's going to be easy.
Yeah, and from a health standpoint, which is the way we approach things in the fat loss program, is get your hormones optimized because that will help with your quality of life and longevity.
And while some of you might be able to use hormone replacement therapy to do that, we also, especially in the Women's Tips and Tricks lesson, we talk about non-hormonal ways to do that by taking advantage of the phytochemicals in certain foods.
Yes.
For example, flaxseed is a rich source of phytoestrogens that have actually been shown in women going through perimenopause to help reduce hot flashes and symptoms of it because it helps stabilize their estrogen signaling. So it's things like that. Roman, weight loss tips for people with polycystic ovarian syndrome or PCOS. We do address PCOS in the Women's Tips and Tricks module.
Yeah, and it really depends on what the reason is for it, because they have people that are underweight, misdiagnosed with PCOS, and it's usually amenorrhea. And so I would really like to have a little more details on that before I give specific advice. But we do cover it in the women's program, and I could get very specific with your individual problem in the group and walk you through it.
Hold the mic closer when you say. Okay. So yeah. We address that in the women's lesson, and we can talk to you individually in the group for your specific circumstances. Valerie, I'm a woman in my early 40s. I'm so confused about what to eat to feel great and lose fat. Will the fat loss blueprint help me with that? So I want to quickly touch on this because I think this is actually a really, really important question. And the answer is yes. The fat loss blueprint addresses fundamental aspects of diet that are not only necessary for easy lifelong fat loss, but for overall health too. And it addresses lifestyle components in addition to that. But a lot of people still have trouble dialing in that dietary component. And so something that I have been doing in the Facebook group is I have been creating little handouts that are designed to be printed out on the front and the back sheet of a single paper, where so far what I've covered it's a handout that lets you know how much protein on average is in common serving sizes of various food groups: meats, fish, eggs, dairy, nuts, seeds, legumes, grains. It's designed to be a quick hit for you so that it's easier for you to hit your protein quota without overthinking. One of the ones I released yesterday was a guide to understanding what are the different types of fats, what do they do in the body, and which are important to prioritize in your diet, not just for fat loss, but for actual overall health. And so I plan on continuing to release these as I create them over time, because this program is designed to help people that already have the diet component addressed. But I don't want to leave people that still need a little extra help just hanging and saying, well, you should have had this dialed in. So while it might not be a part of the program itself, I am making it a part of the Facebook group.
And we're definitely there to answer any questions.
Yeah, and we're always available to answer specific questions too.
I think that a lot of women tend to get micronutrient deficiencies too when they're trying to lean out, because we don't get much food. And so this program definitely optimizes that component of it as well, maximizing nutrient intake so you feel great, because that seems to be an issue.
Well said. So, Christine, Alex mentioned that this would be a good session to dive more into cellulite. What are your thoughts on managing cellulite? I've read things like foam rolling, vibrating, platform, red light therapy, cranberry juice. What are your thoughts?
The only one I see in there that is effective is red light. Like I said, Yohimbeam is the major one, and retinol creams could help, but I think that Yohimbeam is even higher than that on what you should implement. But it's really fat loss, and that's what you need to do to get rid of most of it. And I definitely carry cellulite genetically. And I have to hit around 17 to 15% body fat for it to go away. So everyone's threshold will be different, and we will work with you to find what yours is.
Yeah, I want to expand on that just briefly, emphasizing the importance of fat loss in managing cellulite, because when you look at what is cellulite and the etiology of cellulite, it's a structural deformity of the collagen tissue that supports your skin. And that's what causes dimples, is because the collagen in some areas is weaker than in others. And so if you don't have fat there to kind of push up the skin, then there's no deformity to show in the collagen, because the collagen will become constricted when you lose that fat, and your skin's going to be baby smooth. And that's where the red light comes into play.
Yeah, I think another thing to keep in mind, though, is that it's pretty unrealistic for a woman to have zero cellulite and be at a healthy body fat percentage, meaning that your reproductive hormones pretty much shut off when you get too lean, and some women do need to get that lean to completely get rid of all cellulite. So it's something that we can work on minimizing as low as helpful for you, but I wouldn't expect to have no cellulite as a woman. As a man, you don't really have to worry about that as much. But
yeah, that's a great point. There's always going to be trade-offs, and to be a little blunt about it, with all my empathy, some people just get the short end of the genetic lottery, where they do need to be almost unrealistically lean in order to not have any cellulite at all. And so what we can do is help you lose fat and help you figure out what the threshold is where you're happy with the way you look, but you're also still healthy as far as body composition goes.
Exactly.
So Melanie, I had gestational diabetes. Is that an indication that I have excess fat in my liver and pancreas? I do have a high amount of body fat right now in general. So it can be. Gestational diabetes is, it's a funny one, because your entire hormonal environment changes when you are pregnant. And
that's largely genetic too.
It's largely genetic, and it's also what happens is insulin resistance occurs in every single woman when they get pregnant, because their body needs to prevent itself from using all the glucose so that more of it can be diverted towards the developing fetus, and so that the baby inside you can use that glucose. It's just that some women tend to get too insulin resistant, and that's what we diagnose as gestational diabetes. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have too much fat in your liver or pancreas. It could just be the altered hormonal cascade going around in your body due to being pregnant. And
yeah, I would like to see the labs like when you're not pregnant.
Yeah, and in most cases, gestational diabetes resolves after you give birth. In some people, it does persist and become type 2 diabetes. It's in those people that there is excess fat in the liver and pancreas. And maybe that fat got put there while you were pregnant because of the gestational diabetes. The point is my focus would not be on getting rid of the gestational diabetes, but would be just working with it to maintain lower chronic blood glucose levels. And
not
then
like a ketogenic diet though.
Yeah, and not like a ketogenic diet, but it would be just making smart food choices, choosing more complex, slow digesting carbohydrates, doing a little more exercise to manage the condition, because it could very well disappear as soon as you give birth. If it doesn't, then that's when I would focus on fat loss to get rid of the type 2 diabetes that developed while you were pregnant. Sarah, what is the ideal daily protein intake for fat loss versus building muscle mass in women? So it really depends on where you're starting from. There is very minimal differences between sexes when it comes to protein requirements. And so men and women have very similar requirements. Generally speaking, if you are overweight or obese, then the ideal protein intake for you, regardless of whether you're trying to build muscle or lose fat, is going to be between 1.2 and 1.5 grams of protein for every kilogram of body weight that you currently weigh. It's not based on ideal weight. It's not based on how many calories you're eating. It's how much do you weigh right now? 200 pounds? Or let's say 220 pounds? Okay, 220 pounds is 100 kilograms. So you should aim for 120 to 150 grams of protein per day. That will maximize changes in your muscle mass as well as reductions in fat mass. Now, if you are already at a normal body weight, then the ideal protein intake is going to be between 1.6 and 2.2 grams for every kilogram of body weight. And if you're a very lean woman and you're trying to get below 20% body fat, then you actually would probably need to eat upwards of 1.5 grams of protein for every pound of body weight, which is 3.3 grams per kilogram. Most of the people in this program are probably going to be in the 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram range. For people that want to push the boundaries of leanness, they could get anywhere from 1.6 to 2.2 or higher. So it really just depends on your personal situation. You do not need as much protein to build muscle as you do to lose fat. And that's because when you diet to lose fat, you start to have an increased level of muscle protein breakdown and a lower level of muscle protein synthesis. And so you need more dietary protein to help prevent muscle loss. But when you're building muscle, you only just need enough protein to lay down more muscle tissue. Muscle loss isn't as big of a concern. So Soraya, how does estrogen dominance impact fat loss? So it can make it more difficult. And I say that because estrogen is really good at promoting fat storage. And so you're going to have a hormonal environment that facilitates fat storage. However, you have to ask the question, why are you estrogen dominant? And that most often relates to problems with liver health. And the primary cause of poor liver health is
excess fat.
having excess body fat, because when you have too much body fat, more fat is stored in your liver, and that can impair the liver's ability to detoxify estrogen. So it might make fat loss more difficult, but it's fundamentally going to be fat loss that you need to solve the problem.
Estrogen. And I would like to know how you're coming to that conclusion. Like, was it blood labs, or are you just guessing because you have fat mass? Like, I don't know. Some people think that all estrogen's bad, and that's false. It controls our appetite and helps blood sugar regulation. There's so many things that estrogen does that are good. So I would like to know how you came to that conclusion.
Yep, exactly. And the other part that I would add to it is that we have lessons in the fat loss blueprint on supporting the liver's detoxification processes. When we say detoxification, that includes hormones, that includes estrogen. So yeah, losing fat is important, but also, optimizing your diet with foods, mostly plants, as well as possibly targeted supplements that optimize your liver's ability to detoxify estrogen is going to be critically important. Kelly, hi from North California?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, hi. Melanie, any tips for bloating? How can I tell the difference between visceral fat and bloating? I think I have both, since my stomach is more distended at the end of the day, but it's also distended in the morning too.
Yeah, this is a common issue for women, and a lot of that is hormonal, and the fact that most women have issues with constipation, and so it's going to lead to bloating. And so we go over tips that help eat in a way that minimizes that in the program. Digestive enzymes are also great. Apple cider vinegar before a meal to help with acid production. Bitters, yeah. I've used bitters too. The moonshine herbs, I think, is the one.
I'll add to that too. It's hard to know whether you have actual visceral fat or bloating without getting like an MRI scan of your abdomen so that you can see the separation of the fat compartments. If you are overweight, then it's a good chance that it could be some visceral fat in there. But but bloating is a lot more common than a lot of people like to admit. Mm-hmm. And there's a big kind of divide between getting rid of the bloat and eating a healthy diet, because in women, especially small women, if they're going to eat a diet that's rich in nutrient dense plants and fibers, then they're going to have to deal with bloating. It's just, you're small, you have a small stomach, a small intestinal area, like it's going to stick out when you have food moving through it.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge misconception that is definitely more prevalent in America or Canada, right? That women must have a flat stomach at all times, and that's not true. Like, that's, if you look at any other culture that isn't obsessed with like body image, they don't have a flat stomach at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so this might be something that actually we can put into a future update for the program, because I think this would be important. But it's just acknowledging that on a typical day, you're gonna probably end up with some bloating by the end of the day if you're eating a very nutrient dense diet. And maybe we can add into this update some tips and tricks on how to minimize bloating for if you have like a special occasion where you need to fit into.
Yeah, I definitely have a complete protocol that I follow on days like that where I have zero bloating.
Yeah, and so we can include that actually in an update. So where most days of the week, you just got to accept it, that you're eating healthy, you're losing fat mass, and you're going to have some bloating at the end of the day from having a belly full of nutrient dense food. But then we can have a protocol where, if it's that special day for you, and
a little black dress protocol.
A little black dress protocol where you want to look slim, then we can lay out exactly what you need to do to maintain that quote unquote flat stomach and minimize bloating so that you can go to your event feeling sexy. Mm-hmm. I think that that's very important for women, if for no reason other than just the mental component. You know, I think
absolutely.
That's one of the reasons why we do this fat loss program too, and we put in this entire program on mindset is we want to promote self-love, and you know, feeling confident in your own skin is a huge component of that. So we want to do anything we can to facilitate that. And I'll also mention too, since I just said that we'll add this to the program, one of the first things I did in that Facebook group that you get lifetime unlimited access to is I made a post where I'm asking you to help me. I can't read minds, and I can't think of everything that people want to learn about in this program. So what I did is I made a post where I said, I want you to tell me what you want to see in the program. What's something I missed? What is something that maybe wasn't quite understandable to you and you want me to make more understandable? And what I've been doing is I've been keeping a little list and been writing down everyone's comments on here. Each line of this is an update to the program, every single line. So I already have like 12 things, give or take, that I need to go back and update the program. Some of them are small updates, others are adding an entire new section. But my goal is to make this program as amazing as it can be. And, you know, it's not like I just want you to buy the program so that I can be like, all right, see you later. That's not it at all. I want to be there to help you. That's why I'm doing this. That's why you have lifetime access to the program and the group, so that I can update the program to give you the exact information that you're looking for in case I missed it on the first go around. And then, you know, until that happens, you have unlimited access to our brains to ask questions so that we can help you.
Which is incredible because, as you know, through life, we have things that come up like death of family members and the such that we inevitably put on a little weight. And you have lifetime access to go back and redo this program and ask us new questions with your new data from your new life experiences, right?
Exactly. Like, this whole thing is designed around you, and it's not perfect. I'm not going to tell you this is the perfect program that's going to solve all your problems, because it's not. This program probably has a bunch of flaws, missing information into it, and I'm comfortable admitting that. That's one of the things I ask for you, is to make it a team project. Like, you might be purchasing the program, but so what? That doesn't mean you're on your own or any less. I want you to work with me as a team to help me know areas where I can improve it, so that I can make it as close to perfect as possible.
You'll answer the questions, right?
Yeah, and as I improve the program, I'll answer any and all questions. You know, I'll give you a temporary answer, and then hopefully I can put that answer into the program later on. So, Kelly, sorry I arrived late. No, that's okay. I'm glad that you're here. This may have been addressed already. I'm a 44-year-old woman, your typical moderate exerciser and healthy eater. However, I cannot get weight off despite following the energy blueprint practices. Question is, how do I know if it's hormonal issues are the cause of my weight gain? I gained about 15 pounds fairly quickly a few years ago. Nothing has been able to get this off. I have already purchased the weight loss program. I'm only on less than 3. Is hormone replacement therapy something you suggest?
Well, first of all, you don't have to have your hormones optimized to lose fat. But ideally, we get them optimized so your quality of life is better. I do support HRT. There's some great books and research on it if you are interested in diving into that. But you don't need to be optimized in that sense to lose fat. So you can still start implementing the fat loss program and then schedule an appointment with your doctor. And I can help you go over anything if you don't understand something on the labs, because I know doctors, like, they only have so much time, right? And so sometimes you come home and you're like, wait, I forgot to ask this. Well, I can help clarify things for you on your labs too.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize what she said. Your hormones do not need to be optimized to lose fat. Huge misconception there. I mean, just think about it. Basically, everyone's hormones drop down to non-existent when they starve themselves. Yep. Yet starvation is still a thing. How could people starve to death how can people suffer from anorexia nervosa if hormones interfered with fat loss? Fundamentally, hormones can make fat loss more difficult. They can reduce your energy expenditure. They can make you hungrier. They can make the whole process more difficult and more annoying. But they can't stop it as long as you have everything else dialed in. And oftentimes, a lot of people's hormonal problems are because they are simply have too much excess fat. In men, testosterone goes down when they become overweight and goes down further when they become obese. In women, estrogen becomes dysregulated as they gain weight. And in fact, just like being too underweight can actually get rid of a standard menstrual cycle, so can being too overweight. And so obtaining a healthy body composition is going to be, one of the first steps to optimizing hormones if you are coming from a place where you're carrying around a little too much fat. So, Karen, what is that protein requirement formula again? Divide by 2.2? Yeah, I'll repeat that again. Sorry it took this long to get to your question. So when you look at scientific literature, and frankly, I need to go back into the program and put all of this in pounds for people and make charts that just tell them based on what their body weight is. But the scientific literature uses the metric system because the rest of the world other than the US uses the metric system. So if you want to get your body weight in the metric system, you have to use kilograms. To get to kilograms, you have to divide your weight in pounds by 2.2. So if you're someone who's overweight or obese, your optimal protein intake for the entire day is going to be your body weight divided by 2.2, which will put you in kilograms, and then multiply that by anywhere between 1.2 at the low end and 1.5 at the high end. And that will tell you how many grams of protein each day you should be aiming to eat if your goal is to maximize fat loss and muscle retention. Kathy, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Will your weight loss program address this issue? Yes, it will. We have a section of that in the women's tips and tricks. And I'm going to tell you right now, just because I mentioned this earlier, if you buy the program and you aren't satisfied with that section, tell us why, because maybe it's missing a piece of information that you think is very important, and I would love to add it to it so that way the program's just a little bit better thanks to your help. We're looking for feedback.
Yeah, there's two types of PCOS, so it really depends on which type too, and we'll help you figure that out too, because a lot of people are misdiagnosed with PCOS, and I can help you if that's your issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Christine, is it true that we should try not to drink water during meals because it will dilute digestive enzymes, or is this just a myth? If it is true, what would you recommend in terms of how long before a meal and after for drinking water? I am so used to drinking a large cup of water during a meal. So I'm going to call this one a semi-myth because there is some truth to it, but the way that it's perceived isn't entirely accurate. When you eat anything, your stomach acid and enzymes are becoming diluted. When you eat a whole meal, you're getting a lot of dilution in there. And it's the same when you just add some water to it, you're already diluted. It's not going to make a huge difference. And it can actually, so acknowledging that some people might need to avoid extra liquids in a meal because maybe they already have low hydrochloric acid or low digestive enzymes. Adding water to meals, or if you drink water right before you eat, can actually help increase satiety and reduce the amount that you eat during the day.
And not just that, is a lot of people get reflux when they don't drink liquids. Like that is very, very common in the natural health world with people following these protocols where they don't drink any water with meals. They get reflux. So if that's your issue, I would drink water. I don't drink a gallon of water, but drink a glass, right?
Yeah, you're saying a large cup of water. I would say keep doing it because it's not going to.
The pancreas anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Most of digestive enzymes don't actually go into the stomach. they enter into the duodenum of the small intestine, which is the very first, as soon as it leaves your stomach, it's called chyme. When your stomach turned, like the acid breaks everything down into like this kind of thick liquid, it's called chyme. As soon as that chyme enters into your small intestine, it's almost like it gets sprayed with a fire hose from the pancreas. And that fire hose contains bicarbonate in order to neutralize the acid, as well as almost every digestive enzyme in your body. In the stomach itself, the only digestive enzyme really going to work are those that are involved in breaking down really, really big protein strands into smaller ones that can then be further broken down by the pancreatic enzymes. So I would say drink your water, enjoy it, and enjoy the added satiety and possibly reduced reflux that it brings. Barbie, what brand of yohimbine cream on Amazon are you suggesting?
I don't know the brand name. I can
we
look it
don't
later.
know.
I have one that I really like though, because I've played around with a bunch of them. So
it's something that if you're in the group and you just make a post in the Fat Loss Blueprint group, we can link you to it. You know, if we end up running out of questions and we're waiting on new questions to come through, shoot a reminder comment and maybe we can just Google it right now and share it in the chat. Kathleen, I have PCOS system address this. Oh, yes, we had answered that already a little further down. So Soraya, this is a follow-up question to my earlier question on using red light therapy for weight loss. I use the Jude Duo panel every day for 6 minutes in front and 6 minutes on the back. So should I stop the daily use of total 12 minutes and start 30 minutes back to target butt and thighs and then do another 30 minutes? Would this be the same day for 1 hour? Alternate 30 minutes every other day?
I would, if this was me, I would alternate every other day because an hour a day is excessive in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing it every other day, then just to cut down on the amount of time in a day that you're sitting there with the red light, it would make sense to like do, you know, if like your stomach one day, then your butt the next day.
Yeah, and that's a
clinically
clinically effective dose.
Yeah.
To do that.
And that's what's shown in the research. Autumn. Oh, I love that name. That's beautiful. Would you recommend ridding the body of candida before starting this program?
No, I wouldn't, because I think this program would optimize your bacteria in your body, which is candida.
Yeah. No, if anything, getting some fat loss and helping your body excrete toxicants would help resolve the candida. But frankly, I mean, even if it didn't, the two are really separate conditions. The candida is not going to interfere at all with fat loss. It's just going to, you know, you're going to be uncomfortable. And the fat loss could potentially resolve it, but it might not. In that case, you would need to use other methods to resolve it. But either way, I would say they're more independent than not.
The diet is very important when you're getting rid of candida, and this diet, like the diet recommendations here, are going to support that process.
Okay. Can you spell out the name of the cream you mentioned for the cellulite cream, which can be found on Amazon? Okay, give me a sec. You know, I'm actually here. Hold this. I'm just going to search for it real quick.
Okay, we'll post that for you. Nope. I'll go grab it for you.
Okay, she's gonna go grab the yohimbine cream she uses, and actually we'll just show a picture of it on the screen for y'all.
That's my favorite.
So I know it's backwards. It's called ABFX.
And it has caffeine in it too, so it will burn.
Yeah.
But it's bringing blood flow to the area, so I put it on before I exercise or even before like a hot yoga session.
Okay, give me a sec. I'm going to link it in the group for everyone that's interested. I just need to grab this URL. Okay. Okay, so hopefully everyone's satisfied now with the yohimbine cream.
You could take capsules too. I
Yeah.
guess.
So Julie, can genetic hormone conditions like Klinefelter, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, make it impossible to lose fat and build muscle, or is it still possible? I have no idea what that condition is. That's something I would need to research. What I will say is that certain genetic conditions can definitely make it very, very difficult. But I wouldn't say it makes it impossible.
Outside of a leptin deficiency.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one example, like the one genetic condition that will cause obesity, like almost out of your control, is a genetic leptin deficiency. Leptin is the master regulator for satiety. And so when you don't have any leptin in your body, you become ravenously hungry and you just eat, and you can't stop. The only way to fix that is by getting leptin injections. But outside of that, I've never come across a genetic condition that makes it impossible to lose fat or build muscle. But it's definitely possible that they make it more difficult. I'm not going to sit here and Google and research that condition, but I can say with 100% certainty that if you get the program and you give the stuff in it a shot, and then you ask a question in that free Facebook group you have access to, that I 100% will look at this condition, research it, and give you an answer about what you can expect. Lisa, fasting and exercising is great. However, if you have adrenal exhaustion, how do you do these things and burn fat? That's a good question. Well, I would want to, ask the question of, first of all, what do you mean by adrenal exhaustion? Because there are clinical adrenal insufficiencies where you have some type of condition such as post-tumor operation or a hypothalamic problem where your adrenal glands aren't receiving the signal to make adrenal hormones. Those are legitimate, but the idea of like adrenal fatigue, where like the gland was just worked so hard that it kind of burns out, that doesn't exist. And
no, we have enough evidence.
Yeah,
like, it's not just an opinion.
So the question is what is going on with you, first of all, like what's the real thing? And assuming that it is an actual adrenal insufficiency problem, then the only thing that's going to correct that is going to be working with your healthcare provider to replace those adrenal hormones.
You have to have pretty extensive testing to confirm like adrenal insufficiency too. The first thing I think of is if you are fasting and exercising, or exercising fasted, you're probably underfueled and it's making you dizzy. Because all the symptoms of adrenal fatigue are just mostly from undereating. Like it's just dieting, and that's just what it is. And it goes back to normal when you start eating normally. Like your adrenals magically fix themselves, right?
Yeah, so I mean, in that circumstance, it would be about reestablishing a healthy baseline and then, losing fat the smart way, working with your biology. And that would involve the steps, the 18 lessons that we've laid out in this fat loss blueprint. Let's see. Lisa, fasting and exercising is great. However, if you have, oh no, that's one we just answered. Kat, I have post-polio. So I appreciate your words on exercise. I got polio when I was 2 years old. I'm now 70. I always swam. I always feel better after, but I never want to go. I am 80 pounds overweight, lost and gained over the years. The last 40 years, I gained, trying to eat healthy now. Can I just true water fast and kickstart weight loss? So technically, yeah, you could. You could water fast and just watch your weight fly off. The problem with that is that when you look at research that use actual water fasting, and it's in people with obesity, half of their weight loss comes from muscle tissue, half. And that's in people with obesity. As you become more lean, you actually start to see a higher percentage of muscle loss with pure fasting, all the way up to 85% of your weight loss when you pure fast at a normal body weight is muscle. I don't think anyone in here would agree that that is beneficial for body composition, nor is it healthy. because muscle is like the metabolic currency of your body. You want more of it. So I wouldn't recommend water fasting. I would recommend the Fat Loss Blueprint. And if you're adamant about doing a form of extreme weight loss to kind of kickstart everything, then I can work with you to implement what's called a protein sparing modified fast. This is where you basically eat, you ensure sufficient nutrient intake through using supplements like a multivitamin, and then you eat almost nothing, minimal carbohydrate, minimal fat, but adequate protein. And this entire idea of a protein sparing modified fast was invented precisely because actual fasting resulted in too much muscle loss. And so the protein sparing modified fast, as the name says, protein sparing, is designed to get all of the benefits, including the extreme weight loss that comes with pure fasting, but with minimal muscle loss. And when you look at these protocols implemented in obese patients, on average, 84% of their weight loss comes from fat mass, with the remainder being lean tissue. So it's way superior to just doing a water fast.
Yeah, and I want to say with this, do not just Google it and try to do it yourself. This is a very, it's risky if you don't know what you're doing. So in the Facebook group, we can help you iron out all the details before you jump into the pool.
Yeah. Yep. Mindy jumped on so late. Will there be an email sent out of this live recording after? Yeah, there will. So an email should have went out for the previous Q&A that Ari and myself did. And it's also posted on his Energy Blueprint YouTube channel for anyone to go back and listen to it. Lisa, you have been studying nutrition and what seems to be functional medicine for 20 years. Who did you study under? At this point, which scientists or doctors do you follow regularly? So I didn't really study under anyone, so to speak. I got started, both of us got started in all of this by our own pet interests. I then went to pursue a master's degree from Bastyr University in human nutrition and metabolism. But for both of us, and also for Ari, Ari got his degree in exercise science and then did his PhD in clinical psychology. But as far as nutrition goes, all three of us are just autodidactic. We have a desire to learn all this information and help apply it to people. And so none of us really studied under anyone. We all just
we have mentors, definitely, but it's not, it's more of an obsession all three of us have to just keep reading and obsessively learning about every topic related to health and fat loss and psychology, apparently.
Yeah. So as far as which scientists or doctors do you follow regularly, there's going to be actually too many to list. It would be, I find it's more helpful if, it's not so much about who you follow regularly. It's like what kind of advice is good and what isn't. So
and humility.
I think. Humility. So I'm not going to sit here and give a list of people that I trust. But I will say that if you ever have questions about specific individuals or things that specific individuals are saying, then you can share links to those words. You can make a post in the Facebook group, and we're more than happy to chime in and give you our opinion. And if they are making claims that we disagree with, then we're more than happy to explain why we disagree and give you, the evidence and the rationale behind it. Sue, hi, just joined today. Regarding resistance exercises for muscle mass. This can be a problem if you have a pelvic organ prolapse, as strong exercises can make it worse or even be the initial cause of a prolapse, especially with the weak pelvic floor muscles. It can happen at any age. Does the exercise address this?
We don't address this specifically in the program. There are some things that help, like strengthening your abdominal walls, your pelvic floor. There's exercises you do, but we do not address that specifically.
However, the strength blueprint add-on that comes with the fat loss blueprint for an extra $100 does lay out 4 different exercise routines designed to target everyone from those with chronic fatigue and who can't do a lot of exercise, all the way up to those who are, pure athletes. And so that would probably be beneficial for you in the sense that it would give you an exercise starting point that would not cause additional problems with your pelvis, while also, having you do specific exercises that you can talk to us about in the group to help strengthen it. And strengthen your
I know
body.
that there's specific protocols that you can follow, and I can link you to those in the group. Or even if it's a personal thing, like you can direct message me if you don't want people to see that personal information.
Yeah, that's another thing is, we prefer posts and questions to be in the group so that everyone benefits from the answers, but it's not
Well,
set in
that's a
stone.
pretty personal problem.
If you have a personal issue that you would like help with, but you don't feel comfortable sharing it in the group, then all you have to do is shoot us an email and we'll work with you. We'll talk back and forth, help you get everything figured out, and no one else needs to know. Christine, thank you so much for your thoughtful answers and your time today. Of course, your work ethic is so impressive and appreciated. Well, thank you. We really appreciate the kind words. From your perspective, do you think it is possible to be vibrant and optimal as we age without having to get onto bioidentical hormone replacement therapy? By using the tools you have in the fat loss blueprint and food, exercise, lifestyle approaches? Or as a woman, do we inevitably have to get into hormone replacement therapy as we age, specifically progesterone, which seems to be more challenging to optimize naturally?
Yeah, it's definitely more challenging to optimize progesterone, but I think estrogen is pretty hard to optimize as well. The book Estrogen Matters, I think that everyone should read it if they're a woman. It's an excellent book that addresses this topic. It depends on your own personal biochemistry if you will feel vibrant as you age without hormone replacement therapy. Most women can't because we are not evolutionarily designed to feel optimal as we age, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, to be blunt, because the fact of the matter is that one of the reasons men and women feel youthful when they're young is because of their hormones. Like, that's just how it is. And, that's why one of the reasons why energy levels tend to decline with aging. So if you do hormone replacement therapy and you optimize your hormones, then, it's definitely going to contribute to increased, feelings of vitality and energy levels and youthfulness. But that doesn't mean that it's necessary to do that to get all those effects. What is even more important is just going to be optimizing mitochondrial function, maintaining a healthy body composition, being regularly active, and eating a solid diet. No, you don't need hormone replacement therapy, not at all. But could it give you an extra boost? Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Sarah, fasted or pre-fueled workouts for low intensity Z2 training, higher intensity strength training. I'm not familiar with Z2 training. What I will say is that doing low intensity cardio when in a fasted state could definitely help boost the amount of fat you burn for energy relative to the amount of carbohydrates. So it can, all else being held equal, it can increase fat loss. For higher intensity and strength training workouts, high intensity endurance exercises like doing sprints doesn't actually use fat as a fuel source. It uses carbohydrate because carbohydrates are the only fuel for that level of intensity. However, it burns more energy. And so if you use carbohydrates during the exercise itself, you're going to burn more fat afterwards because you're going to create a higher energy deficit. The same applies to strength training. When you lift weights, heavy weights, you don't use fat to fuel that. You use the glycogen in your muscle tissue, but you'll burn fat afterwards because of that higher energy deficit you create.
Yeah, and something I would ask too is, how do you feel when you're working out fasted? Like, do you feel low energy? Because if you do, then it would be good to have a protein shake first, because you're going to put more effort into the workout and burn more calories.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's two parts of this I want to touch on, actually. So working out fasted is great in theory. But let's say that you're working only at 80% capacity when you train fasted. Mm-hmm. Having a small snack beforehand, if that lets you work at 100% capacity, then you might ultimately burn more energy overall and get a better workout in and improve your fitness more, because you have more energy and zest to put towards that workout. And that is going to be more beneficial.
And that's person dependent. Like, some people feel fine when they're fasted, but a lot of small women, like, we're just like on minimal calories anyways. And so we wake up kind of dizzy when we fast, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. And you want to be careful too, because, I mean, to get a little personal here, I know with Briana, she can't do sprints when she's fasted because
I can do steady state. I cannot do sprints because I will black out, because my liver glycogen and my muscles are smaller, so I just don't hold a lot of glycogen. And so I'm out by the time I do sprints, and I have to have a meal.
So, I mean, for her, eating beforehand is mandatory. And so I think that's, a question you need to ask yourself. Kelly, thank you so much. You've helped clear up a huge misconception I've been carrying around for years. Thank you for your time. Well, you're welcome, Kelly. I'm glad that this Q&A could really help you. D, can you suggest anything for loose skin after losing weight? Fasting? So this is something I've addressed historically, and this is another thing I need to add to my list to put in that fat loss program, because there is a common belief out there that extended bouts of fasting will help get rid of loose skin with a lot of weight loss. And that's a complete myth. When you look at isotopic tracer studies of amino acid metabolism in the fasted state, and the non-scientific way of saying that is, when you look at studies that use radioactive signaling molecules to follow precisely where every molecule in your body goes, what they find is that when you're fasted, 85% of the protein, or of the amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, 85% of those that your body needs to use on a daily basis to keep your organs alive comes from skeletal muscle tissue. That's the stuff beneath your skin that, most people want, because it helps you look better and it helps make your body composition better. Only 15% come from your skin. What's more is that 15% that comes from your skin is completely replaced in the process. So you have no net loss of skin, whereas muscle protein breakdown is 30% higher than synthesis, which means that in short, when you fast, you're having a slow, steady loss of muscle tissue, but you're not having any change in your skin at all. And so, no, fasting won't help with loose skin. Loose skin is largely genetically determined. Some people actually don't have it at all. Others do. And unfortunately, the only real thing that is going to help is going to be surgical removal.
Yeah, and building more muscle to fill up that skin tissue, right? That'll be helpful too. I think that almost everyone that comes from obesity, though, and loses a bunch of weight will have some loose skin. And I have tons of friends that ended up having like the skin removal surgery, and it looks great.
The one thing I will add, though, is, unlike fasting, two things that can help really tighten up that skin is first going to be hydrolyzed collagen supplementation, because when you consume hydrolyzed collagen, it's not completely broken down in your digestive system. You have little bioactive peptides that make it past your enzymes. They're absorbed intact. And when researchers follow them, again, using those radioactive signaling molecules through the body, what they find is that these little peptides actually deposit themselves in the skin, where they stimulate collagen synthesis, which can help renew your skin and give it a tighter, firmer, more moisturized appearance. And the other one's going to be red light therapy. For the same reason that it helps with cellulite, it's going to help strengthen that collagen matrix that helps firm up your skin and makes it look nice and youthful.
Vitamin C, I think, is another good one.
Yeah, vitamin C, definitely, because vitamin C is necessary for collagen to take on that strong structure. In fact, if you have a vitamin C deficiency, one of the symptoms is having loose skin and sores because the collagen can't hold things together. Linda, or Autumn, thank you both. Well, thank you for listening. Linda, I deal with a lot of food and chemical sensitivities. Waking up daily feeling detox symptoms, even only eating foods I know are okay with me. So not much energy for regular exercise, but I want to. Any suggestions? The two big ones are going to be, I'm assuming you're already minimizing your exposure through things like, using air filters in your home to get rid of air pollution, and eating organic to minimize exposure to pesticides, not using plastic or makeup that has chemicals in it that could be absorbed through your skin. Minimizing exposure is one. Number two is supporting the liver, because the liver is what detoxifies all of that. And that's going to be things like providing it with taurine, glycine, glutathione, things it needs to be able to bind these chemicals and excrete them. The other one's going to be fiber.
Yep, I've had this issue for years, and or it's past tense too. I haven't had it probably in 5 years. And the thing that I did was added a ton of vegetables to my diet, like pounds every day, and it completely got rid of this.
The reason for that is twofold. The first is that plants are, and fibrous vegetables in particular, are the #1 source of phytochemicals that are going to boost the liver's ability to detoxify these molecules that give you sensitivities. And that is involved in phase 2 detoxification, where the liver binds to the molecules and excretes them. The second reason is because they provide fiber. And the way fiber works is that one of the ways your liver excretes toxicants is it excretes them in bile. But 95 to 98% of bile is just reabsorbed in the small intestine. So when you consume adequate fiber, those toxins are excreted in the bile, and then the fiber binds to the bile and you just poop it out. It's not going to be reabsorbed. And so if you're not eating that fiber, then you're just going to reabsorb the toxicants, and your liver's just going to have to deal with them all over again.
I think that supporting methylation too, if you have any of the genetic polymorphisms that slow that down, would be helpful too.
Yeah, and that's something that is much more nuanced, so we aren't going to go into detail here, but it's something that we could detail in the Facebook group if you ask these questions. Johannan, would butyric acid help this bloating? Thank you very much. So butyric acid salts can be very beneficial for the intestinal tract. But butyric acid from food like butter is never going to make it down there. You have to use a specialized form of a supplement that can be cost prohibitive, and you have to take large doses of it. Eating fiber is a natural way to produce butyric acid because it's formed from the fermentation of fiber in your colon. But it's not going to help bloating. It's more than likely eating more fiber is going to contribute to it.
Yeah.
Do you have any just quick tips to reduce bloating off the top of your head?
A lot of times people that are bloated are either drinking too much water or not enough too. So that's something like I would like to know, like what your day looks like too, and what foods you're eating. High FODMAP foods affect some people. Lack of soluble fiber if you're on a low carb diet. That's a huge one, and that's an easy fix. You just add a supplement or you start eating soluble fibers.
Yeah, another one that's probably the most common cause of bloating is low thyroid function.
Yes.
Because your thyroid is one of the primary, low thyroid and low carbohydrate intake actually. The low thyroid, because thyroid is responsible for telling your intestines to engage in what's called peristalsis, where they move food through and get it out of your body. And I say carbohydrates because another compound that's involved in that process is serotonin. And you need to have carbohydrates to produce a lot of serotonin, because what they do is they clear out your blood so that the precursor to serotonin has easy access into cells, so that those cells can then make serotonin from it. So yeah, those would be some quick tips for bloating, but it's going to be highly personalized. Denise, what do you base your BMI calculations on? I've always been a more muscular woman. I carry my fat all over. I've never carried it in my belly, hips, or thighs. Being outside the Google BMI calculator range has always made calories guesswork. How are you getting it? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by saying that you're outside the BMI calculation range. BMI is a metric used on a population level, not an individual, because every individual is going to have differences in their body composition. BMI is looking exclusively at weight relative to your height. So, I mean, the BMI calculation is going to be your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. And
I think I would suggest for you to base your calories off of either a DEXA scan or a BOD-POD scan if you want to get that like into it. If you don't, then there's really no need. You just track your calories, see what you're maintaining at, and you can reduce or increase depending on your goals.
Yeah, you don't actually need to use one of those estimation calculators to figure out how many calories you should be eating. Just monitor your food for a little bit. See if your weight is stable. If your weight's stable, then you know that however much food you're eating right now is how much you need to maintain your weight. And so then you can increase it up or down depending on your goals. Sheila, question please. I'm interested in both programs, but I'm concerned that you would recommend in ways that are opposition to bright line eating. Can you address this, please? Yeah, so there are some differences between our program and bright line eating where they might contradict one another. In those situations, all you need to do is pick which program you want to follow. But there's 18 lesson plans. As far as our diet recommendations go, they're in line with bright line eating because all we're doing is telling you what a good goal for protein intake is. And then we even have an entire lesson plan on doing a hedonic reset where you remove all of these foods that mess with your taste palate, just like bright line eating does. And we lay out how to do that effectively. The only area where we might contradict bright line eating is in our exercise recommendations, because we believe in the idea of flux and getting a high energy expenditure that allows you to eat more. Whereas that idea is less important in bright line eating. But
if it doesn't align, you just disregard it.
Yeah, if they don't align, disregard it and keep doing bright line eating.
So many other lesson plans in the fat loss program that will be applicable to you.
Exactly. And here's the thing too, as kind of the frosting on the cake, you could always just get the program and try it out for a month. If you don't like it, you have 30 days to just send us an email and say, hey, I don't like it. No questions asked, you get a refund. So, I mean, if you're concerned that it's just not going to work with you because of bright line eating, then get it and get an actual answer for yourself. You have an entire month to actually figure out if it works with you or not. And if it doesn't, no worries. You can get a refund and then no harm done. Sarah, follow up. Z2 is zone 2 heart rate training. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be on the high end of doing some light intensity steady state, but that's still going to be having a good amount of fat that is coming from your body. I would like to know what your VO2 is when you're training. Your fat burning is generally going to be maximized around 55 to 60% of VO2 max, but it can increase depending on your diet and your aerobic fitness all the way up to 70%. So yeah, how early prior to working out should you eat? That one depends. If you're going to eat a whole meal, then probably 2 to 3 hours because you want to give it some time to digest. As soon as you start exercising, blood flow leaves your stomach and your intestines and goes to your muscles, and that can interfere with digestion. But if you're just having like a protein shake, 30 minutes. Or if you're just having a small meal, like maybe some fruit and a piece of protein, then an hour should be fine. Christine, question. I take daily the Perfect Press black cumin seed oil and 5 seed oil blend, 1 tablespoon each. Then also 1 tablespoon of hemp seed oil. I also take omega-3 and CLA and GLA caps. All of this seems to really help with my extreme dry skin. Hands will crack and bleed, and dry scalp. Is this something I should take into account for daily fat intake along with dietary fat intake? I'm afraid to stop because it seems to help with my health issues. I'm really looking forward to the Fat Loss Blueprint program. Yeah, those are supplying calories. And I mean, if, let's see, 1 tablespoon each, that's 2 plus another. So you're getting 3 tablespoons from some of your oils plus whatever you get from your omega-3, CLA, and GLA. Those 3 tablespoons alone are 360 calories. Plus the others, you're probably getting 400 calories from fat. And that can be quite a bit for a small woman. But if they're helping you as much as they are, then, you know, it's just something that you're going to have to work with. And
you'll just have to avoid other fats in your diet.
Yeah, you would just have to avoid other sources of fat in your diet. Now, I will say that the dry skin, it sounds like you are highly sensitive to having deficiencies in the omega-6 fatty acids, which are involved in skin fluidity and maintaining a nice lipid membrane. Other things that can really help here is vitamin A, because one of the side effects of a vitamin A deficiency is dry, scaly skin, and so and bumpy skin. And so you might try supplementing with some vitamin A, retinol, 3,000 to 10,000 IU per day, and see if that helps. There are other factors that I've actually, so we're coming out with a sunlight book, a book all about sunlight later this year. We have an entire chapter in there on how to help, since one of the big concerns with sun exposure is premature aging. We have a whole chapter in there on how to maximize skin health and looking amazing. And we have routines in there about supplements that you can take orally or apply topically to benefit your skin health. I don't remember what some of the others are off the top of my head, but this is a perfect question for in the Facebook group, because then I can open up the document that we've written and actually get a solid answer for you.
Well, and on top of that, I worked in the aesthetic industry for a decade. So I have all this down. I have procedures down that can help with your skin health. And I would say add some vitamin C too, because that helps retain the moisture.
Okay. But to kind of get back to the initial point that you were asking about, yeah, you need to count those, or you need to be conscientious. You need to, yes, those fats count. They count. They don't just magically disappear just because they're a supplement. Soraya, just wanted to thank you for the insightful information. You guys are so knowledgeable. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Cynthia, what were the 2 items you mentioned again about hydrolyzed collagen peptides, and what else for skin firming and health? Red light therapy and the hydrolyzed collagen peptides. Personally, we prefer a brand called Great Lakes Gelatin. We don't have a bag of it or anything because we keep it in Fido jars, so it's not something I could pick up and show you. But you know, if you're, I don't know, I guess I can look it up. Will you hold this?
Yeah.
Great Lakes.
I think vitamin A is pretty important for skin firming too. It's one of the most researched. And I take it internally and put it on as a cream too. And I've done that for years.
Okay, I just put a link to the type of hydrolyzed collagen that we personally use and recommend in the chat. And that's from Great Lakes. That's the brand. And we like them because they're incredibly transparent with everything they do. They get their collagen from pasture-raised cattle. They test every batch for pesticides and other heavy metals and contaminants. And they share all that information with you, so you can be sure you're just getting the collagen and nothing else that might be sneaking in.
Treat their animals nice.
Yeah, they treat their animals nice. Sheila, is there a vegetarian collagen? No, there isn't. Collagen is.
I do have some of my clients use the marine collagen because it really depends on what you consider vegetarian, right?
That's a great point. So 2 points here. The
And that's
first,
from Vital Proteins.
yeah, the first is that collagen is exclusively animal. There is no such thing as a vegan collagen. If you look at any vegan collagen supplement on the market, all it is a couple of different amino acids. Those amino acids aren't what stimulate collagen synthesis in the body. It's the actual bioactive peptides that escape digestion from taking hydrolyzed collagen or gelatin. Literally the stuff that they use to make Jello. That's collagen. So a vegan option does not exist, and that's just the hard truth. So, you know, I like Great Lakes again because they're very sustainable. They treat their animals humanely. I think it's if you are vegan, but you're vegan because you care about treating animals right, then that would be a brand to go with. The other option, as Briana mentioned, is there are marine collagen from a company called Vital Proteins, and
I really like their processing methods as well. They're a great company. It's just they're a little more expensive.
And they sell a product where they source the collagen from fish. So if you are a vegetarian but you're still okay with eating products that are made from fish, then that would be the option for you. Sarah, a question following your advice to eat pounds of vegetables every day. Do you have good tips for doing this in an enjoyable way?
I do. Seasons on everything. And I make like sauces. I use tomato sauce, salsa on everything. It depends on your palate. It's very hard for me to say what will be palatable to you. But I have lots of ideas. Flavor God is a great like season company that you should check out too.
Yeah, it's really just going to come down to individual preference. And I mean, for example, I'll give you a real life example here. Briana just eats vegetables like all the time throughout the day. She eats a lot. I used to do that, but I personally need to eat like 4,000 calories to maintain my weight. That's a lot of food, and so I can't just enjoy eating all these vegetables. So what I do is I try to find ways to mix them into my dishes. So like at dinner, I'll have a big bowl of mixed beans and rice. And what I'll do is Briana will saute up mushrooms and mix them in with that so that I can get a bunch of mushrooms without it feeling like a lot of extra volume.
Yeah, and greens are another great thing because they cook down to nothing and it still retains most of the nutrients other than vitamin C and some enzymes, but it still has like the potassium and the minerals.
Yeah, if you think about like steaming spinach or other leafy greens,
Kale, yeah.
You know, it basically goes like this. And so that can make you get a really, really easily nutrient dense input. And if you have a high quality juicer too, juicing can be a great way to get a lot of nutrition from greens without all of the fiber.
Yeah, I would say add that to your meals, like get with your meals and not instead of meals.
Yeah, yep, definitely. Christine, could collagen and vitamin C help prevent hemorrhoids? I'm not sure on that.
I would say that it could. Definitely get a vitamin C with rutin. Is that how you say it? Rutin in it because that helps with vascular.
Okay. Bobby, I couldn't join until now, so if you already addressed this, forgive me. You are forgiven. Binge eating is still a problem, even though I have good eating habits and lifestyle habits. I spend a lot of time and energy to stay healthy, but I still experience these episodes of feeling out of control. I'm going to give this one to Briana after I say one bit. We have an entire lesson in the Fat Loss Blueprint dedicated to getting into the right dieting mindset. And we address a lot of these common cognitive barriers people experience, like feeling out of control and how to overcome them. Simultaneously, we also have an entire chapter on managing stress. And within that stress management lesson, not a chapter, but a lesson, we talk about emotional eating and how to change your mindset and relationship with food when you tend to go for the cookie jar when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yes, so I've dealt with numerous clients over the years with this issue. I've had a little bit of this issue as well when I was going through stressful periods in my life, so I understand. I definitely, this is like my area of expertise. I have to ask you like what triggers it, what are your thoughts around it? Something that I can say that's vague is you always have control over what goes in your mouth. And I know that sounds crazy, but unless you've experienced a binge episode, you really feel like you have no control over your hands. And you just have to remind yourself as you're going through that behavior, and it takes practice. We have to reframe these behaviors. And so you're not going to be perfect right away. There's no magic pill. Just remind yourself over and over, I have control over these hands. I do not have to keep putting this food in my mouth.
Beautifully said. Autumn, does this program require calorie counting? No, it does not. The beauty of this program is that the whole thing was set up to, as we like to say, work with your biology rather than against it. And so by doing certain things in this program, you're going to naturally have a lower appetite and spontaneously eat less food, be more active, and feel more amazing without ever thinking of a calorie. Now, does that mean calorie counting is unnecessary? No. Some people like to count calories because it helps them feel more in control.
And it depends on what kind of body fat percentage you want to reach. If you like post a picture in the group, I can tell you what you're looking for and what you're going to have to do to get there.
Or in, I should say, email or private message.
Yep.
Because I know many people aren't going to be comfortable doing that in the group. But the fact of the matter is, for most people, to achieve a normal body weight, calorie counting is completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Once you're a woman that is wanting to push below about 20% body fat, or a man that is trying to push below 10% body fat, then calorie counting starts to increase exponentially in importance.
At least for enough time to set those habits in. I don't count calories anymore at all, but I did for years to get to a point where I wanted to be.
Yeah, because it takes time to develop these habits. And then, of course, anyone that's looking to like get competitor lean, counting calories is almost going to be necessary, just because at that point your biology is going to really be fighting against you to the extent that you need to have strict control. You can't trust your appetite. But that's not most people. That's like 0.1% of the population.
Yeah, but if you want to get there, I can help you do that too.
Yeah. Sandra, is this program compatible with a vegan diet? 100% compatible. There's nothing in this program that cannot be done by someone following a vegan diet. And we set it up in that way. I will say the only area where it tends to be a little more difficult with people following a vegan diet is when it comes to protein intake. And thankfully, the solution to that is really simple. There are vegan protein powders that I recommend and that I can share with you in the Facebook group, and that I've already shared with other vegans that are already in this program and loving it. But outside of that one small area where it could be more difficult, unless you use a protein powder to solve that problem, everything is 100% compatible with being a vegan. Sarah, can/should you use collagen along with energesis or energenesis? I don't want to say you should use it alongside it, but the two can definitely be combined without any problem. But you can use collagen at any time of day. Jeannie, would using a Nanovi, it helps with oxidative stress and protein folding, be counterproductive to building muscle? I've heard that antioxidants after exercise may reduce effectiveness. So I don't know exactly what that is. So my answer is going to be maybe. The thing with antioxidants is that it depends on the mechanism of action. When you look at reducing the hormetic effects of exercise, and that doesn't just include building muscle, that actually also means mitochondrial biogenesis. Those are interfered in studies by two main things. The first is using high dose vitamin C plus vitamin E right after a workout. And the other is using regular NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, like ibuprofen. So the question is maybe. But other antioxidants like curcumin and resveratrol and quercetin, those do not interfere with the adaptations because they have slightly different mechanisms of action. So maybe, frankly, I kind of default to just taking antioxidant supplements away from my workouts. So for example, I currently work out before dinner because that's just what my schedule allows. I take most of my antioxidant supplements with my breakfast meal.
Yeah, I take antioxidant supplements through the day. I work out twice a day, and I'm not too concerned with that aspect of it, like the muscle growth. And
yeah,
mine is different from my health concerns.
Yeah, yeah, she's more focused on health rather than building muscle. And I also do want to say that for most people, the inhibition of muscle growth isn't going to be significant. Yeah, it would matter if like you're trying to get as huge as possible or compete in a bodybuilding or fitness competition. But if you're just trying to like get healthier and build some nice, healthy, functional muscle tissue, then it's not going to matter.
And I think it's the entire load of your oxidative stress through the day too. Like mine's pretty high. And so that's why I take that approach for myself. Like Alex's isn't as high as mine.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me about that. In older adults, and I'm talking about anyone over 50 years of age, they tend to have higher levels of oxidative stress than younger adults. And in older adult populations, using supplemental antioxidants that inhibit gains in younger adults actually accelerates gains because it's all about hormesis and balance.
Yep.
When you use them in younger adults, you're pushing them, you're interfering with that hormetic signal, and you're pushing it back down so that they don't have that adaptive signal. When you use it in older adults, they have so much oxidative stress that they're over here. They're too far on the hormetic range. And so you're pushing it right back to where it should be. So yeah. Let's see. Christine, what are your thoughts on taking supplemental iodine? I take 5 drops of nascent iodine with pink salt every morning. It seems to really help my energy, but I know there's a lot of conflicting thoughts on iodine out there regarding the thyroid.
Yeah, depends on what type of iodine. I guess I'm not familiar with nascent. Lugol's is another one that people use a lot of. I think 5 drops is excessive and causes a lot of oxidative stress in your body. I think 2 of like 5% is sufficient. I think you definitely should be getting iodine in your diet, and it makes sense that it would give you energy because it upregulates thyroid function. So if you could give more details, then I could answer it more detailed.
Okay. Soraya, so you'll cover more detailed protocol on dry, bumpy skin in the program? ? You stated that you have written a document for what to do and take. I've had dry, bumpy skin, upper arms and thighs for what seems like forever. Recently, I had nutrients deficiency test and vitamin A was 1. I'm taking orally about 8,000 IU. What vitamin A would I use topically? Appreciate your help.
I don't think topically would fix that issue. I mean, it could be helpful, but the issue is systemic when you're having the bumpy arms and legs. And I would suggest using 20,000 IUs for a week and then going down to 10,000.
Okay. And I'll also follow up on that by saying, no, we're not going to cover bumpy skin in the fat loss program because it's not relevant. However, what we will do is that when you ask these questions in the Facebook group, we will answer them. And
have something to add to that too. Yeah. Sorry. Make sure you're taking it with a fatty meal too, because you could just not be absorbing it if you're taking it with no fat because it's fat soluble.
Yeah, great point. So yeah, these are the types of questions where cellulite is something related to fat loss, and I want to add it to the program. Red bumpy skin, not so much, but it is something that I want to help you with, and that's where the Facebook group can come in helpful because of course I'm going to help you address this problem. And you know, when you post in the Facebook group, it doesn't need to be about fat loss. It can be about anything you want. It can be about any question that you have on your mind, anything you need help with, we're there for you. So I mean, that's a huge advantage. You can definitely go outside the fat loss realm. As for that document we've written, yeah, we can share some information on how to optimize skin health and reduce premature aging based on what the research that we've done for the book that hopefully we'll be releasing later this year. Sorry, I don't know why I was handing it to you. Okay. Christine, what brand of vitamin A do you like? And would liver or organ capsules take the place of supplemental vitamin A? This Q&A has been terrific. I've been amazed at your generosity with your time. Thank you. Okay, so, well, we personally use pure encapsulations of vitamin A. I'm going to hand this one over to Briana while I go use the restroom.
The amount of liver capsules that you would have to take is ridiculous, like 20 to get the amount of vitamin A you need. So unless you're actually eating liver, the liver capsules really aren't feasible. Okay, let's see what else we have. Christine, to clarify, 1 drop of nascent iodine is 400 micrograms of iodine. I think 5 drops would make 12.5 milligrams. I think that experimenting at a lower dose is a good idea. If you feel fine, I would look at your thyroid labs because that's where it's going to show up. You will end up getting like a goiter, and that's swollen thyroid. But you can see it in your thyroid labs first. So if everything looks fine, then maybe that's just what you need. I would definitely take it away from antioxidant supplements because it's an oxidant. So I take mine in the morning, like right when I wake up, because when I'm eating food, it's providing antioxidants.
Yeah, I'll just add to one point on that is that the current RDA for iodine is something like 270 micrograms. And that is estimated to cover the needs and prevent goiter in 98% of the general population. Yeah. It is definitely possible you need more than that to function optimally because we're all individual at a biochemical level. But you just keep tabs on yourself because you don't want to, slowly be inching yourself closer and closer to thyroid problems.
Yeah, a lot of people that went on these iodine protocols end up with Hashimoto's or something because they just throw themselves into a thyroid storm. So you just want to be mindful of not over consuming iodine. It's definitely, I'm not in support of those heavy dose protocols. I have melanoma, so I'm very particular about taking my iodine because it's very helpful.
So Cynthia, I just started the True Cellular Detox program. Should I wait before starting the Energy Blueprint program? It seems like a lot to try and do all at one time. So I'm going to assume you meant the fat loss blueprint, not the energy blueprint. And I am not familiar with the True Cellular Detox, so I couldn't tell you how intensive it is. What I can tell you is that the fat loss blueprint does include information on how to detoxify your body as you lose fat mass. Because when you lose fat, a lot of the lipid and fat soluble toxins that get stored in your fat tissue are going to be excreted at an increased rate into your bloodstream. And so you want to support your liver's ability to detoxify them, or else you're going to start feeling woozy and having, unpleasant side effects of weight loss. So doing, just based on the name True Cellular Detox, doing that alongside a fat loss program sounds like it would be ideal. But again, I don't know how complicated it is. What I can say is that you can go through the fat loss blueprint at your own pace to make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself. Tam, will the fat loss blueprint, will losing fat mass help with chronic fatigue syndrome? It depends. If you are currently overweight or obese, then having that excess fat mass is going to be one of the primary drivers of low energy levels. And in that way, losing fat could definitely help. However, if you're at a normal weight and you don't have excess fat, then your fatigue problems are probably coming from other things. And you would probably be better served trying the energy blueprint rather than the fat loss blueprint, which is going to be more intensively focused on doing protocols that boost mitochondrial function and help with fatigue specifically. Fat loss program could still help. There's a lot of great lifestyle and diet information in here that can help with fatigue, but it wouldn't be as comprehensive as the energy blueprint. Soraya, what causes bags under the eye? Is it inflammation or a lymphatic issue?
Well, it could be both. It's person dependent. Usually it's from not drinking enough water or getting enough sleep. If your sleep is dialed in, then I would up your fluid intake. Unless you're talking about hyperpigmentation under the eyes. And then a topical vitamin C is the only thing that's proven to lighten those dark circles under your eyes. But it just really, and if you want to send me a picture in a private message, I can look at it and tell you what it's from. I have years of experience in the aesthetic industry, so.
Okay, Karen, is this program okay if you have adrenal fatigue? So we addressed this a little earlier, and I will briefly repeat it. It depends on what you mean by adrenal fatigue. So if you have actual adrenal insufficiency, which is a clinical condition where your adrenal glands are either not functioning properly and secreting the adrenal hormones, or if you have an issue with either your hypothalamus or pituitary gland in your brain so that the signal is not being transmitted to the adrenal glands to tell them to secrete adrenal hormones, then no. The only thing that will help that is working with your healthcare provider to either get to the root cause or to engage in hormone replacement therapy for those adrenal hormones.
And these tests are very extensive. It is not just a saliva test to diagnose you with adrenal fatigue, or adrenal insufficiency, I should say. It's like day-long tests with your endocrinologist. Like, it's not what these natural providers are offering.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, if you mean adrenal fatigue, like, hey, I've been stressed for a long time, I just don't think my adrenal glands aren't functioning as well as they used to, that doesn't exist. I know. I feel like I said that very, very blunt, and I don't mean to.
Ari has a great article on this too.
Ari has 2 articles on this that you can search for on the Energy Blueprint website. Adrenal fatigue is not a real condition. And so if that's what you're talking about, then yeah, our program can definitely help you increase energy levels. And in the Facebook group itself, we can actually try and figure out, it's not adrenal fatigue, but what is it?
Because you're obviously having symptoms.
Yeah, you're obviously having symptoms. All we're saying is that it's not because your adrenal glands are tired and want to take a break from work. So we can help you with that in the group, but it's not something that we address in the program itself. Christine, to clarify for Briana.
Oh, I answered that.
Oh, you did?
In the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Marie, question about the program in general. I've done the Energy Blueprint program with Ari. Does this program have a lot of overlap, as he talks about hormesis and light, etc., in the Energy Blueprint program already? So to steal Ari's answer from the last Q&A session that we did, we would not be selling this program if it was extremely similar to the Energy Blueprint. This program covers similar issues. Like, we talk about the importance of circadian rhythms, for example, and we talk about the importance of hormesis. But we discuss all of these topics not from an energy standpoint, but from a fat loss standpoint. And the protocols are going to be different. The information presented is going to be different. So no, this program is not similar to the Energy Blueprint. It's not at all. This program focuses exclusively on fat loss and related topics, and it presents all of the information in that light. Christine, what hormone lab tests do you prefer? Blood test, Dutch test? Thank you for the caution on the iodine. I just assumed because I had more energy with it that the iodine dose was good. Should I reduce to 1 or 2 drops and see if I feel the same? Thanks again.
I would, because the whole idea behind some of those protocols is to saturate yourself with it and then work your way back down, right? I don't know if you've read any of the books on iodine dosing or anything like that. So I would see if you feel the same energy levels with it. Oh, and As far as hormone tests, Dutch tests are my favorite.
Okay, there you go. Marjorie, does this program give specific foods and amounts to eat for each meal? I have been on a plateau since November and I eat bright line eating. I'm about 40 pounds away from my desired weight. I'm 66 hypothyroid and hyperparathyroid. No, we don't give you meal templates at all because we want to give you the information and then help you individualize it in the Facebook group itself. We're not going to tell you what specific foods to eat or how much for each meal because there's like infinitely many varieties depending on a person's preferences, what they have access to.
But we can help you work that out in the group.
Yeah, 100%. If you make a post in the group, for example, and you're like, hey, I really need help putting together this meal plan. These are like some of my favorite foods to eat. You know, how much protein should I eat? How should I divide these foods up between each of my meals? Like, help me put something together because I am someone that needs to have more structure to make fat loss easy and to make adherence better. And we can say, all right, well, we got the information. Let's start putting something together for you. And we can help you individually in the Facebook group. So that was the last question that we have at the moment. So does anyone have any other questions that they want to ask? We have literally an hour and 44 minutes left if you wanted to go for the full 4 hours. So, I mean, plenty of time if you have any questions. Christine, these Q&A sessions have made such a difference. Honestly, I wasn't planning on enrolling in the Fat Loss Blueprint before, but after these Q&A sessions, I've been so impressed that now I'm going to join and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, Christine. That's amazing to hear. That's what we want. And, you know, I think what I really like about these Q&A sessions personally is that these sessions let me get a point across that would be very difficult to get across otherwise. And that point is that the information in the programs itself is solid. It really is. But I don't think that that's the best part of the program. I mean, look at all the questions that were just asked in this Q&A session. How many of them actually related really to fat loss? Not the majority. And that's where this whole bundle deal comes in amazing because you can actually, you know, buy the fat loss program and then say, screw fat loss. I just want to improve my health. And then you have unlimited access to our brains in that group. And so, I mean, again, I really think that Facebook group is just worth so much more than the program itself. And Mary who says, I'm not on Facebook. Is there support that is website based? And unfortunately, no, but I do have 2 solutions for you. The first solution is make a Facebook account. Just make it very simple. You don't even need a profile picture, nothing. Just make it and then join the group and use Facebook exclusively for access to the group. You don't need to worry about anything else.
Don't add friends, nothing. Don't
add friends. Don't worry about Facebook itself. Just use it exclusively so that you have access to that group. The second one would be use email. Find our emails and, you know, send us an email with any and all questions you have. And Mary, you very well could just have, you know, a never-ending one-on-one conversation with myself or Briana to answer all of your questions, you know.
The only problem with that is that people ask really good questions in that Facebook group, and you're probably gonna be helped by reading through their questions too.
Yeah, you will miss out on a lot of really good information, and other people might miss out on really good information that you provide. So that is a disadvantage. But, you know, I don't want to say, oh, you don't have Facebook? Tough. I don't want to do that. No. So, I mean, we're here through email. It's, you know, it's not ideal, admittedly, but it is an option for you. And we want to be there for you. Tosh, hi, Alex and Briana. I really appreciate your incredible knowledge. I asked this question in the last Q&A, but didn't phrase it very well. About 15 years ago, I started eating protein at every meal and having to eat breakfast by 9 a.m. and lunch by noon. I get shaky brain fog and a migraine if I don't include protein and eat on time. I also cannot work out before 2 p.m. or so. I start blacking out. I've been trying to figure out why this is happening. Is it hypoglycemia or something else?
Very common with women. I'm guessing, without knowing more details, like what your diet consists of, and like if you're low carb, if you're low calorie, what your weight is, what your body fat. These are just general comments then. I wouldn't work out before too, if that's your issue, and I would eat protein. I too have to eat protein at every meal or I feel shaky and dizzy.
Hold on. I want to interject here and say that this is actually one of the fundamental tenets for lifelong fat loss, is eating protein at every meal. And I want to just take 1 minute to expand on that real quick. When you think about eating, you have 2 times during the day. You have a window that you're eating within, and you have a window that you're not eating within. The entire purpose of not eating is to tell your body, hey, we're not taking in nutrients, so we can't grow. Instead, let's focus on recycling and repairing damaged tissues and proteins in the body. But you don't want to do that around the clock, because then again, you're never growing. The entire purpose of eating, and I'm sitting here making circles with my finger as I talk, but the entire purpose of eating is to create a growth promoting anabolic state for your body so that it can say, we're eating, we have nutrients incoming, let's support organ function, let's create new muscle tissue, let's build antioxidants and antioxidant enzymes. All of that happens when you eat. And then after your body's made this army of amazing growth thingies, then it says, okay, now we're not eating. Now we're going to go to sleep and we're going to enter into our overnight fast. So let's take this as an opportunity to look at what we created while we were eating and get rid of the ones that are dysfunctional or damaged. And then we can start again rebuilding even more structures the next day. So you want to eat protein at every meal, because every single time you eat is an opportunity to grow your body and your health. And every time you don't eat, you're just going to be fasting, and that's the time your body takes to repair and regenerate.
Yeah, if you're experiencing hypoglycemia though, I would check into liver health, support your liver, because that is what releases glucose when your blood sugar drops. Also, are you eating enough fat? Are you eating enough complex carbohydrates? Those are things that you need to ask yourself as well. Because he covered protein.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is an issue that it would take a little back and forth, Tosh. It would. And so this is an issue that we could definitely figure out, but it would take some back and forth in the Facebook group, honestly. Christine, thank you for your generosity and time today. So appreciated. Well, thank you for being on the call and asking such amazing questions. Marjorie, thanks. Thank you. Julie, that was great. Thank you. Jeannie, I'm sorry if you answered this already. I use resistance bands. Seems to be working. Is there a better way for an old gal to build muscle? No, there isn't. Resistance bands are amazing. Here's the thing. When we say resistance training, that's just a general term to basically contracting your muscle against some form of resistance. So when I push my arm out like that, I'm contracting this muscle in the back of my arm. You can see it. You see it contract? When I do that, yeah, I could use, a dumbbell and push it out. Or I could use a resistance band and push it out. Or I could do a push-up and push it out. The point is to have resistance. You don't need machines. You don't need fancy equipment. The goal is to find something that provides resistance, enough resistance, so that you can challenge yourself. For, as you say, an old gal, a resistance band might be perfect and exactly what you need to get a good amount of resistance going. And if it's available to you, you can always get the strength blueprint alongside the fat loss blueprint. And, if anything, check how your own exercise routine that you're doing compares to the ones designed to build muscle and, build healthy muscle. Tam, is the Facebook group just for people on the fat loss blueprint? Yeah, it is. What happens is when you access the fat loss blueprint, there's a little link there that says join our Facebook group. That takes you to the group on Facebook. You select join. When you join, you need to submit your email that you use to purchase the program, as well as your invoice identification number. And then Melinda will, make sure that everything's in check and add you to the group. Soraya, I feel the same as Christine. I was on the fence, but you all have so much knowledge and I've already learned so much. Well, I'm glad. And, I hope that these education sessions can continue. I will say that, these sessions are designed for people that were on the fence, but we're going to be having, not just myself and Briana, but also Ari, we're all going to be having future Q&A sessions that are exclusively for people in the program. Members. And so, you've had access to 2 of them right now, but if you want access to even more, then you got to get in that program, because then we're going to have them just for member exclusives. Cynthia, you guys are amazing. You are only 2 people. How can you possibly prioritize your time to help everyone that wants individual help? The amount of questions from this group could be overwhelming. I'm not trying to sound selfish, but how would you assist every individual? I so appreciate you both and your generosity and the time you have given today. Well, to be blunt with you, Cynthia, the way we're able to help everyone is because of everyone. You're paying for this program, and some of that money comes to us. And so this program is what's supporting us right now. So we actually don't need to spend time developing new content or doing other forms of work, because the revenue that we get from this program gives us the time that we can then put back in to improve the program and help you all on an individual basis. As an example, just yesterday, just me, not Briana, just me. I spent 7 hours on Facebook yesterday going through and answering questions. That's 7 hours I would normally use producing new content or writing book chapters with Ari. But right now we're on a complete break. Myself, Briana, and Ari, we're all on a break to support the Facebook group and support this program, because we want it to be as awesome as possible. And so that's why we have time, is because you're literally paying us for our time.
I also think that passion drives a lot of that too. We're all 3 very passionate about this topic, and so it doesn't feel so much like work when we're helping other people. We really enjoy it. And so we enjoy going on there and helping you guys.
So yeah, definitely. Soraya, can you please talk more on how to cure hemorrhoids? You mentioned vitamin C. Is there anything else to do?
Rutin is
what?
The rutin.
The routine. R-U-T-I-N is how you spell it.
But the only way to cure it is to have surgery.
Yeah, it really depends on the cause. Surgery, if it has progressed. There could be dietary interventions that help. I'm not gonna lie to you, I have no idea what they are. But it's something where if you ask this question in the Facebook group, then that's where, I spend 7 hours a day in there. That's where I say, oh, here's a question. I don't have an answer for you, but my skill set is in navigating the scientific literature.
It's definitely very common for women because of the constipation issue that I talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, and so, we could find an answer for you. Like, I guarantee we could find an answer for you. And that answer may resort to saying, it turns out there's nothing that you can do from a diet standpoint. But that seems highly unlikely, because diet's involved in everything.
The thing is that they get inflamed, and that's what causes you pain. And so the diet high in antioxidants is what you want, but that isn't going to cure it. It just reduces all the pain. So it depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's definitely a question where we could for sure help you in the Facebook group or over email in more depth. Christine, do you think a rebounder would be good to use daily? How many minutes do you think would make a meaningful difference or benefit? Do you know what a rebounder is?
Yeah, I think 10 minutes is sufficient. It's great for lymphatic drainage. That's about it.
Is that 10 minutes on a daily basis?
Well, you don't have to do it daily, but I think daily is good if you have the time.
10 minutes, ideally every day, if you have the time.
And the reason why I say it depends is because it really depends on the context of your whole diet. Like, are you also doing some exercise that's getting lymphatic drainage? Like, are you doing massages? Like, it's really context dependent on how long you should be doing that.
Karen, Thanks so much for answering my question. I was told by a naturopath that I had adrenal fatigue. It's not the only one where I have to be on meds. It's not the one where I have to be on medication. It's just utterly exhaustion. I've had massive amount of stress for years to the point I just don't have energy to exercise. I suppose I wanted to clarify whether this may be the right path in my situation. Okay, so the big issue with chronic stress is that there is, you no longer have a circadian rhythm to your cortisol. And that could definitely, yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say that this fat loss program would benefit you. And I'm going to say that because we have an entire lesson plan on managing stress. And if it's the stress that's causing you chronic elevations in cortisol and eliminating its natural circadian rhythm that is causing you fatigue, then what you need to do is manage stress. But that's easier said than done. So what can you do?
That's something that I work with too. All you have to do is lay out some of your issues that you're having, and I can brainstorm with you, because certain things aren't going to work for everyone, right?
Yeah, but again, we have an entire lesson plan on stress management and using actually scientifically investigated and established tactics to reduce stress. And then you complement that with the entire article we have on getting into the right mindset, self-love, and understanding cognitive biases that can present obstacles to being successful, not just with fat loss, but with anything.
Everything.
And I think that you'll have a solid recipe for quote unquote healing your adrenals and improving your energy levels. Bobby, thank you. I'm canceling some other financial commitments to make sure I can sign up. You are both very generous. Well, Bobby, thank you. And hopefully those other commitments don't, come back to bite you, because I would really hate for you to sign up for this and then just run into other problems because of it. But I'm really happy to hear that you're going to find the program useful. Soraya, when is the best time to use a vibration plate for fat loss?
I don't think there's any evidence to support vibration plates.
Nope. Sorry, Soraya. Vibration plates are like cool because they make you jiggle, but
they're fun.
They're fun, but other than that, they aren't going to accelerate fat loss. At least not that I'm aware. Johanna, where does Qui-Gon fit in your exercise advice? I have done a 10-day Qui-Gon intensive. I feel so great doing that. I can't wait to do my Qui-Gon. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, and if so, I'm sorry. However, there is a lack of time to do much more exercises. I also do 2 hours of walking with the dogs. I try to do yoga or weights every few days for 10 or 15 minutes. Would that be sufficient? The Qui-Gon is about 30 minutes to an hour. Thank you so much. I really like it.
It's more of a meditative practice.
Yeah, I would definitely. I wouldn't stop doing the Qui-Gon because it's a meditative practice that incorporates physical activity just like yoga does. And so it's going to have profound benefits, not just on your body, but your mind and your mental state. And so I think that's amazing. It sounds like you're getting between that and, a 2-hour walk, you're getting some really, really good leisure time physical activity that's going to increase your energy flux. That is solid. You said you try to do weights every few days for 10 or 15 minutes. I can work with you on that. So I come from an exercise science background too, and I think that that's more than sufficient to get a proper workout in. It's just I would need to know more about what your equipment availability is. Do you go to a gym? Do you have weights at your house? Is it body weight? I could answer these questions and I could help you, figure out a routine, because frankly, you don't need to lift a ton of weight to get the benefits. I could figure out something short and sweet for you that you could incorporate. I just need to know what your availability is. And that's stuff that we can address in the Facebook group. Sarah, you may have covered this earlier, but I am wondering if you like the idea of seasonal water fasts for the cellular cleanup benefits. If so, do you have guidance on how to do it in a way that's healthy and does not mess up the fat loss routine? I have Hashimoto's. Is this something even advised for someone with autoimmune diseases? Okay.
We wouldn't do it. an autoimmune
So,
condition?
oh, where to start? How to do it in a healthy way. Yeah, so I'll tell you that first. Doing seasonal fasts, I think you could do it in a healthy way if you eat only protein during the fast alongside your water. And I say that because I did address this earlier, and I'll repeat it. Prolonged fasting, when you lose weight, half of that weight comes from muscle mass. At minimum, half of that weight comes from muscle tissue. Researchers acknowledging that, some people want to lose weight super rapidly, just like they would with complete fasting. But they said, but losing all that muscle is not healthy. How can we get around this? Researchers developed what's called the protein sparing modified fast, where you eat an adequate amount of protein, but little to nothing of anything else. And this can actually make it so that you still lose a substantial amount of weight, just like you were fasting, because you have such an extreme calorie deficit. However, most of that weight loss comes from fat. So if 50% of a pure fast comes from muscle tissue, if all you do is eat protein, and that could be as simple as just having a protein shake 3 times per day, you can reduce the amount of muscle loss from 50% all the way down to 16% on average. And so that's definitely worth it. Now, is fasting great if you have Hashimoto's, an autoimmune thyroid condition? That depends.
I mean, it could cause a short-term effect of you feeling better because it'll raise your cortisol, and a lot of times they give you cortisone for autoimmune conditions. So short-term it might, but it just might stress your body too. So it really depends on you. Yeah. Because it lowers thyroid function as well when you fast. So if your thyroid numbers are already super low, like it's probably not a good idea for you.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling better, it's probably just due to the temporary increase in cortisol and not actually fixing anything or detoxing anything, really.
Yeah, and as for cellular cleanup benefits, those aren't exclusive to pure fasting like water fasting. Those occur anytime you're not eating. So, I mean, those occur, there's no evidence that prolonged fasting has benefits above and beyond what could be achieved with simple time-restricted feeding every night, where you simply have a 14 to 18-hour overnight fast. Doing fasting for several days, no evidence that the benefits are any different. But there is evidence that the detriments are more severe, including muscle loss. Denise, I have heard creatine recommended by many experts. Is creatine recommended for women? Daily quantity? I get a mild headache using it. Is that common? Thanks.
Well, it is common, but it's because it increases methylation, but you are the expert here.
Yeah, so creatine is probably one of the most well-researched, safest, most beneficial supplements that anyone can be taking. And I don't say that lightly. The way it acts is creatine is the molecule that binds to energy in muscle tissue. And it is the first go-to source of energy whenever you do any form of physical activity. It supplies almost immediate energy. And so when you supplement creatine, what you do is you saturate the amount of creatine that is in your muscle tissue. And that means your muscles can hold on to more immediately available energy for use. And so creatine is one of the few supplements that has convincingly and consistently been shown to boost power output, strength, endurance capacity, and overall energy levels. It's also been shown to boost cognition because creatine in the brain provides more readily available energy for the brain to use. So yeah, and that goes for men and women. What you want to do is supplement it daily. All you need to do is take 3 to 5 grams per day.
Yeah, I want to go into.
And Briana's going to talk a little more about that, but I just want to finish up quick and say 3 to 5 grams per day is the goal. And you just take that on a regular basis. If you use that dose after about 20 to 30 days is when your stores in your muscle tissue will be saturated. And then at that point, it's just maintaining that high level of saturation.
Okay, and so to get to there, when you experience like issues with creatine, which I did too, I just when you don't methylate well, that's what happens. I started at 500 milligrams and did that for a week, and then went up to a gram and slowly worked my way up.
Yeah, and the reason for that, I don't know how many of you will be familiar with it, but creatine synthesis in the liver takes up 40% of all the methyl groups in your body. So when you supplement creatine, your liver stops making it. And that means that you suddenly have a 40% increase in available methyl donors in the body. And that's what causes the headache. So you can, if it's
But that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all. It's just an adaptation that needs to occur as your body readjusts to the suddenly more available methyl groups. If you are able to find glycine, taking anywhere from 500 to 3,000 milligrams of glycine alongside the creatine can actually help buffer that increase in methyl groups and reduce the headaches.
And that's another supplement that some people do not do well with. It just makes them feel shaky and ill. If that's the case, use collagen for the glycine.
Yeah. Because glycine is contained in collagen. Anyway, Richard, would you recommend a vibration plate for fat loss? No, it doesn't work. Sarah, what's included with the strength blueprint? So the strength blueprint is going to be 4 exercise templates that are designed to provide exercise routines for everyone who have fitness levels all the way at, hey, I have chronic fatigue, it's hard for me to even get up out of bed, what can I do? All the way up to the athlete that says, hey, I want to go run 20 miles, help me make myself even more athletic. The strength blueprint is basically just exclusively exercise routines for every level of fitness with exercise videos and explanations so that you can know that you are doing, muscle building, mitochondrial boosting exercise without having to think about it. Jeannie, thank you both. Looking forward to more on Facebook. Well, thank you. I look forward to seeing you and the questions. Angela, have you ever known someone who was chubby as a kid, plump as an adult, never ever, sorry, I love the way that sounds, never ever slender, and now in their 50s? Could this person ever be thin without it being a full-time job? Or are some people just destined to be on the heavy side? No, you're never destined to be on the heavy side. I think that, yeah, the unfortunate truth is that a lot of physiology gets set in childhood and adolescence. So if you are overweight as a child or as a teenager, then it's going to predispose you to being overweight or obese as an adult. But does that mean it's going to be a full-time job to lose that weight? No, not at all.
And the mindset modules make it so you don't feel like it is too.
Yeah, all it's going to require is just, getting back in line with your biology and using the protocols put out in our fat loss blueprint to make it feel effortless. And also changing your mindset about it, because, Angela, I'm going to mention this. If you're sitting here, just the way that you're asking this question, I feel like in your head, you are going to have some mental barriers to weight loss, because it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you've been overweight your whole life and you've probably tried everything without success, then you're going to be more hyper-focused anytime something negative happens. Like maybe you fail, you're going to focus in on that failure and be like, see, I knew it. And you're going to start fulfilling these preconceived biases that you have. And that's what our mindset lesson is meant to address. We're meant to remind you, hey, don't focus on the negatives. Like, that's natural. That's a real thing in human cognition. It's called the negativity bias. Everyone does it. Why? Because throughout evolutionary history, if you were about to be killed by eating a bad plant or a predator, it's more important for you to focus on it and remember that for your survival than it is to remember all the good things that happened. It's normal, but it can also be self-sabotaging. And so our mindset protocol helps you overcome those mental barriers and point them out to you so that the next time you say, God, I knew this wouldn't work, you can say, no, wait, I'm doing that thing again. That's the negativity bias tripping me up, and I'm going to overcome that because I know how to read my own thoughts and then think a different way so that I can maintain happiness and progress on the positives. Tosh, Thank you, Alex and Briana. I bought the program. I'm looking forward to the Facebook group for more discussion. Well, we're looking forward to having you in there. I'm happy to hear it. Tammy, thank you for all the information. It has been very beneficial. At first, I was hesitant, but you both are very knowledgeable, and I am impressed. I'm 52. I had a total hysterectomy 4 years ago and went on full HRT. I was also diagnosed with Hashimoto's last year after several years of thyroid battle, and I'm not obese, eat well, exercise, but I'm seeing that fat creep up a little each year through my midsection. Frustrating, but I know I can fix it, and I will appreciate your help. Tammy, I'm going to tell you what. I'll add a personal note here for you. My mother, who obviously has unlimited access to me, she is currently 62. When she was in her mid-30s, when I was born, she had to have a hysterectomy because unfortunately my birth kind of tore her up. So she has been on hormone replacement therapy and just followed the diet and fat loss and exercise advice that is no different than the stuff I put into this program. And she has, for the last 5 or so years, been effortlessly walking around at 20% body fat, looking like she is 20 to 25 years younger than her actual biological age. So I guarantee your exact situation can be easily dealt with. Maureen, thanks for all the varied and valuable info. I really appreciate it. I do have a question regarding protein. I've encountered the rule of thumb to eat 0.7 grams or 1 gram of protein per kilo body weight. But I also have read that we eat too much protein in general, so it's confusing. I eat a really healthy organic grass-fed meat diet with healthy carbs, but I'm confused about the whole protein thing. Also, does age influence this? If I'm over 50 and just interested in healthy muscle maintenance and nothing extreme, what do you recommend for protein intake? Okay, there's a lot here. I've addressed very similar questions already in the Facebook group, so you'll get much more drawn out answers in there. But to keep this short, I will say that people who say we're already eating too much protein have no idea what they're talking about. They just don't. The current average intake for the US population for protein is almost exactly at what is considered the absolute minimum protein intake for the body to have before it starts down regulating processes that it doesn't need for survival, but that are important for optimal health, like muscle protein synthesis and immune function and neurotransmitter synthesis and hormones. So pretty much on average, 50% of the population is eating less than eating less than this minimum. 50% is eating more. In general, no, people are not eating too much protein. Most people actually should probably be eating more protein because it will cause a spontaneous reduction in food intake and help reduce the currently 70% of the population that is either overweight or obese.
So I think the misconception often comes from mTOR signaling, which you should cover.
Yeah, a lot of people say it's too much protein, it impairs longevity. I have a whole blog post written on this that I've shared in the group already. There's no good evidence to support that notion. We're meant to cycle between anabolic and catabolic states throughout the day. Protein is the primary player for anabolism. So like I was saying earlier, eat protein at every meal, tell your body to grow and reproduce, and then take advantage of the fasting window afterwards. And protein becomes even more important when you're older because your muscle tissue suffers from what's called anabolic resistance, where it actually becomes desensitized to the growth signals that should occur when you eat protein. So you actually need more protein, almost 50% more protein to get the same growth signal as a younger adult. So for you, depending on what your weight status is, you probably need around 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And if you're already at a normal weight, you could need upwards to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. It really depends. And I'm more than happy to work with you to link you to these resources that I've already written where you can get the scientific information on questions like these, and then also work with you to individualize your own protein requirements. Sarah, are there ways to figure nutritional status and whether you need to add or subtract supplements or foods? Also, do you address how to deal with the MTHFR gene mutation? Do you have anything you want to say?
I would say the Genova ion panel is probably a good one, and Spectracell. It depends on what your funds are and what you want to spend on it. As far as the MTHFR, a lot of people have that, and it's not rare at all. It depends on which one you have. I can look at that. I have expertise in that area. We both have that genetic mutation, a couple of them.
Yeah, so figuring out your nutritional status. I mean, if you wanted to do like blood labs, those would be ideal. But if cost is limiting, then it would be as simple as tracking your food in something like Chronometer, and getting a weekly average, and we could help you optimize your nutrient intake. And no, in the program, we don't address the MTHFR polymorphism, but we can definitely do that in the Facebook group itself. And I have some blog posts that I've written personally that I can link you to where you can get more information on it. Tam, will this work for vegans? Yeah, I answered this one. I answered this one a little bit ago, but 100%. This entire program is completely compatible regardless of what type of diet you follow. Vegan, carnivore, low carb, low fat, Mediterranean, DASH diet, paleo, it doesn't matter. This program doesn't tell you what diet is optimal. We literally say that the best diet is the one that you enjoy and can stick with. So, I mean, yeah, if you're vegan and that's the diet you enjoy and can stick with, then 100% more power to you. This program is going to work with you. Does every single diet out there have certain areas where it could be improved in order to make it better for fat loss? Yeah, and we're going to tell you how to do that. In the case of a vegan diet, biggest barrier to optimal fat loss is going to be protein intake. How do you overcome that? We have recommendations for vegan protein powders that you can use, that I have to insert his name here, that Ari uses, because when you eat a vegan diet, or when you eat a diet low in animal protein, then vegan protein powders are the easiest way to overcome that protein barrier. And Ari actually commented in here saying that we're doing an amazing job, we're rock stars, and he loves us. And well, we love you too, Ari. Tam, what if I have physical limitations to some exercise? Can I still lose weight? Oh, 100%. Exercise, the way I like to think about it is you lose weight in the kitchen, but you gain health in the gym. And so, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you can't exercise, then you're not going to be able to optimize your health. But you can still lose fat mass, still lose weight, and that could aid in healing those physical limitations, which could then allow you to start exercising more. So fat loss is literally the first step on this journey for you in order to help resolve some of these physical limitations that can then lead you to being more active. Also, if you do choose to invest in the strength blueprint that comes bundled with this program, then one of the baseline programs in that exercise routines is designed for people with physical limitations and chronic fatigue syndrome. And so you could be able to look at that and say, okay, this is what's designed for me, and maybe this is what I need to do to modify it in order to make it work for me. But at least then you're working with something, and you can continue to progress from that point forward. Ashley, is doing a 5-day fast once a month of protein shakes and supplements in a 300-calorie meal beneficial for fat loss overall? I feel like it helps me refocus on healthy eating and long-term goals. I would say it's possibly a tool in the toolbox to use. I like that you said you're using protein shakes because, again, protein sparing modified fast. If you're going to fast and basically drop your food intake to nothing for whatever reason, then at least eat protein because that'll help preserve the muscle tissue as you get this huge energy deficit and fat loss going. And so, I mean, is it ideal? I don't know. What does the rest of everything that you're doing for fat loss look like? Can it help? Yeah, definitely.
Cause binging at the end of it? Like, there's so many variables that.
Yeah, if it causes you to binge afterwards, then no, it's probably not. But you said it helps you feel like you can refocus on healthy eating for long-term goals, and then 100% I support it. Because if it's helping your adherence, that's the #1 factor in any successful fat loss routine. So if that's the case, then what I would want to do is I'd want you to post a question in the Facebook group about this so that I could help optimize that 5-day fast for you so that you can use it as an opportunity to refocus your mental state on healthy eating while also minimizing any potential downsides and really, focusing it on fat loss. Sheila, I bought the price as well. Thank you. Well, thank you, Sheila. I'm glad that you got the program. Christine, fun question. What are your thoughts about dark chocolate? Maybe we could add collagen, vitamin C to an 80% dark hot chocolate with nut milk. You two are amazing. Can't wait to dig into the fat loss blueprint content. Fun question. Well, I love dark chocolate.
We both eat it.
Yeah, we both eat it. I mean, I have been known to eat just an entire bar of dark chocolate at one of my meals because I can't stop eating it because it's just so good.
And you have the calories.
Yeah, and
which I don't.
I have the calorie allotment to do that. But yeah, I mean, what you put there, that hot chocolate with collagen, vitamin C, and some nut milk sounds good. Go for it. I will add too, dark chocolate, super awesome compound. The cocoa bioflavonoids in it are just next level, like amazing compounds. To the point where they actually get an entire section in that book on sunlight that we're working on because of the way they interact with skin to rejuvenate it and help increase its resilience against UV radiation. So yeah, I mean, dark chocolate doesn't just, help women feel better when they're going through that time of the month, but it can help your skin too. Dana, I only found the Q&A at the end, but I'm very excited for this program. I'm working with a therapist to understand my relationship with food, but every diet I've tried has been restrictive and I've not had long-term success. That is probably for at least several reasons, but this program I think will be a big turning point for me.
Yes, and I think it will, because there's no other program out there, and I am familiar with all the big ones on the market that address the psychological aspect of dieting, and that is where most people stick.
Yeah, I'm excited to see your progress, and we would love for you to keep us posted on it, either in the Facebook group or through private messages. Sheila, programs I meant. Yeah, I know. Let's see, male, 83, heart-lung disease, proximal weakness, muscle loss, tone. My exercise weight is 5 pounds max. Is it possible to regain some muscle? I don't need to lose weight, but I have some belly fat. 1 to 2 large healthy meals per day, including protein, Energenesis, GL, collagen, protein powder. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. And, to be honest with you, I don't really know where to start in your situation. You said that you don't need to lose weight, even though you have a little belly fat. I don't know what your financial situation is, Dean, but I think the best place for you to start would be with the Strength Blueprint. It's $200 by itself. It's only $100 if you buy it in addition to the Fat Loss Blueprint. But I think more important than the Fat Loss Blueprint is getting that Strength Blueprint, because that's going to give you some very fundamental exercises that are meant for people with fatigue problems. And I mean, having weakness and muscle loss and low exercise capacity is basically a fatigue problem. So I think that would be the best starting point for you, regardless of whether you choose to purchase it in addition to the Fat Loss Blueprint or by itself. Johanna, further on to the water fast, I don't like any protein drinks very much 3 times a day. Could I eat chicken or meat instead to alternate with the shake? Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. In an ideal world too, I would recommend choosing leaner cuts of chicken or meat. So that would be things like chicken breast, turkey breast. If you enjoy white fish, if you enjoy red meat, it would be, bison or other game meats. Or if you choose beef, then get cuts that are from the sirloin or the round, top sirloin, sirloin tip, top round, bottom round, eye of round. All of those are super lean. But yeah, definitely you can eat whole food. And frankly, I mean, if you enjoy eating the fattier cuts, that's fine. It's just, I'm talking in an ideal world. You want the leaner. Tosh, is there a water filter that you recommend? Reverse osmosis, Berkey, or others? Many systems I have seen mixed reviews.
Well, what one do we use?
So
You like that one?
Yeah, I like this one. We use one called Clearly Filtered.
Yeah, I think that water it's a fascinating thing. I have a hydrogen machine. Most people that's not feasible for. I also drink a Gerolsteiner a day for the minerals because it's high in certain minerals and bicarbonates. For cooking and other stuff, this is Alex's favorite pill. I'll let him go.
I lied. It's zero water, not Clearly Filtered. It's zero water. I really like it because their filter process is like an 8-step program that doesn't that uses a whole bunch of different things to get contaminants out of the water, to the point that I need to hold it funny. Every single one that you get, they come with a mineral tester. So when you test your water and you dip your stick in there, it'll literally show you 0 parts per million contaminants. Like it's just the most amazing filter that I've ever come across.
Yeah, so for my house, back in Oregon, I had one plumbed in because I'm very particular about my shower water and my bath water too. So that one, I just got a really good one at Home Depot. Like I don't even know what it was called because I don't drink that stuff either. But I think it's very important, like what we bathe into.
Yeah. Tammy, yay, go mom, and I'm counting on it. Good, I'm glad to hear it. Marine, thank you. Ginny, how does the program measure and track body fat? Do we do a BMI test? Thanks. So the program itself doesn't do any of that. One of the things that has already been suggested in the group is to give some recommendations on how to track progress, and that's something I want to go back and add. But fundamentally, you can use your scale weight, you can use body composition assessments, even just simple like bioelectrical impedance analyses, which are like the handheld devices or the ones you stand on that send electrical currents to your body.
Yeah, they're not very accurate.
They're not super accurate, but I mean, maybe you can see a downward trend over time, even if it doesn't give you accurate numbers for what you're really at. But the scale, using the mirror, I mean, just look at it and see your body composition changes in the mirror. Use circumference measurements around your waist.
Yeah, so when I started, like when I was obsessively doing fat loss programs for myself, I would do bod pod and DEXA scans, but at this point, I just use the mirror. Like, that's it.
Sorry, I had to take care of our cat, which you can see right there, yeah. All right, Karen, me again. Well, that's fine with us. Would this program still be effective if you didn't take any supplements? Oh, 100%. This program is designed to not involve any supplements at all. I do have a complete lesson plan on supplements that are and are not effective, because if you opt to use supplements, I want you to be aware of which ones actually work and which ones don't, and what the clinically effective dose for the ones that do work would be. But you don't need them at all. This program is 100% effective without supplements. It's designed to be used without supplements. Those supplements are merely there for those who choose to use them as kind of icing on the cake. Richard, what is your view on sugar substitutes such as erythritol? So one of the lesson plans I wanted to include in this program was nutrition myths and misconceptions, where I kind of take a break from fat loss and I address many common nutrition beliefs and what the evidence actually says around them. I address topics such as organic agriculture, grass-fed beef, whether you should eat gluten-free, if fructose is harmful, what's the stance on GMOs, and what's the science around sugar substitutes. not just, you know, more sugar alcohols like erythritol, but also natural sweeteners like stevia and artificial sweeteners like aspartame. For erythritol, that is probably one of the most amazing sugar substitutes there is. Like, it actually has health benefits. For example, it has better antibacterial effects in your mouth than xylitol does. And it has 0 calories, and it doesn't affect any of your hormones.
Doesn't it help with glucose regulation too?
Yeah, and it can improve insulin sensitivity if it's eaten alongside carbohydrates. So erythritol, I'm all for 100%. I love this stuff. And that was the last question for right now. We have 55 minutes left on this Q&A session as kind of like our hard stop before this thing stops recording. And so we don't have any questions at the moment. So I want to give you an opportunity we have 71 people left in this thing. Do any of you have any other questions? We'll be sitting here waiting for maybe a minute. And if we don't get any other questions in a minute, then we'll wrap this thing up and, you know, say our goodbyes. Ginny, awesome. How about Ari's favorite, allulose? Yeah, allulose is another amazing one. That one has a lot less research on it, but what research is available is that it's basically a prebiotic fiber. So you don't digest it, and it moves through into your colon and has beneficial effects on your microbiome. It's definitely one that I would support consuming if possible. Cynthia, is there such a thing as taking too many supplements? How do you know if you're taking too many?
Don't ask me.
No,
I would watch your blood labs and your markers.
I think the question isn't about quantity, the question is about quality. So, I mean, let's look at Energenesis, right? Energenesis is like the best energy boosting supplement on the market. It's just one supplement though, but it has like 15 clinically effective ingredients. Is that taking too many? No, it's not. And who cares how many are in there? It's about quality. So, I mean, frankly, you know, if you're taking all these supplements, the question is, well, how many of them do you actually need? And how many of them are you taking at ineffective doses? Or maybe you're taking the wrong type or it's not being absorbed properly.
Yep. So I take quite a few supplements too, because that's how my body works best, is through trial and error. I have found what works. And the thing is that you have to look at the research and see what it helps. Like, all of us have different like struggles, and for me, I have a few that my body just was not designed to be able to handle any like toxicants at all. And so I have to take things to support my detoxification pathways. And that looks like a lot to someone else, but it optimizes me.
Yeah, 100%. So Ginny, and the dark chocolate bars you chow down on, do they have a little sugar in them? Some of them do. So, I mean,
we like variety.
Yeah, we like variety. One of the things we'll do is when we go shopping at any of our stores, we'll see like, we like to try kind of all of them. I mean, we avoid certain ones. Like if it's milk chocolate, we just don't touch it because that gets rid of all of the beneficial bioactive compounds. But if there's a variety of different dark chocolate ones, we'll try them. And,
if you are sugar sensitive, I had a company send me some a while back ago, JoJo's, and they're at Costco, and they're sweetened with erythritol, right?
Yeah.
I think so. The ones that are sweetened with glycine are horrible, though.
Yeah, we've been sent bars sweetened with glycine. Those are bad tasting. Deborah. Oh, well, actually, I want to add too, if your dark chocolate has a little sugar added, and you aren't like sensitive to that sugar, just enjoy it. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah, anything that's around, what, 75, 80%, like the sugar content in it is so small, it's not worth worrying about, especially if you have high flux. Deborah, not a question, but thank you so much for your time. I just got the program today and I can't wait to start.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Thank you for supporting us. And, you know, I really, really think you're going to enjoy the material that we have in it. Bobby, coffee enemas, are they safe?
Of course, me. Well, it depends. I have been in the natural health world for like 15 years. And so I've experienced like other people like almost killing themselves with them. And that comes down to either an electrolyte imbalance. They throw their potassium as a big one for that. And that's why the Gerson Institute actually has you add potassium salts to the enema solution. Another thing is that you're completely bypassing digestion and putting caffeine right in your rectum. And so you absorb it into your bloodstream rapidly. If you are caffeine sensitive, or if you have a genetic like polymorphism where you cannot detoxify caffeine the same way, you're going to run into issues with that. So it depends on the person. Do I think that they offer this magical health benefit? Not really. Not if you're doing the other things that are laid out in the fat loss blueprint, detoxification protocol. Like saunas are way more effective, and eating a lot of fibrous vegetables I think is better. You could try it, but be very, very, very careful.
All right. Maureen, does the program contain exercise advice guidelines even if I don't buy the strength blueprint? Yeah, it does. We do have a lesson plan on exercise, but it's not going to give you actual exercises to do. Instead, it's going to tell you kind of how to lay out your week in terms of exercise to optimize the hormetic effects and the fat loss. So for example, you know, how many days should you do resistance training? Where, if you choose to do high intensity interval training, where should you incorporate it? What about just light cardio? But we're not going to actually sit there and develop, and there is no actual resistance training routine or any of that put together for you, because that is contained in the strength blueprint. Dean, how do I buy the strength program only? There should be, let's see if I click this. I want to see if it's in here. Why, you know, I'm not sure off the top of my head, because on the sales page, it's just the fat loss program only, or plus the strength blueprint. So why don't you send an email to Melinda? It would be Melinda. I'll just type her email into the chat thing and send an email to her asking, and she can let you know.
Okay, spoiler alert. Are you going to suggest no white sourdough bread and no sugar on the program? My daughter wants to know. I bought the program this morning, but I want to know right now. No, we aren't going to tell you to avoid it indefinitely, and depends on your goals, really.
It depends on your goals and you. So what we do say is that if your best bet is going to be to minimize your intake of processed food, which white breads and breads in general are, because they make food taste better. It's more rewarding. It's going to promote overeating without thinking about it. But that's not a make it or break it. That's just something to be aware of. Maybe you do just fine on bread, and if that's you, then more power to you. Eat that bread.
And your calorie requirements.
Yeah, and maybe you find that you can keep the bread in there and you still lose fat successfully with it. Like, eat your bread then. It's not going to be doing you any harm. It's not intrinsically bad.
As for added sugars, I think it's best health-wise for everyone to avoid that. I'm not talking about fruit or the such, right?
Yeah, and then same with sugar. You know, consuming added sugars isn't ideal, but it's not going to be a make it or break it. And it really depends on the context in which they're consumed and, you know, other factors of your goals and your health status. And I mean, if you have more like specific questions as you start embarking onto this fat loss journey, then again, that's what the Facebook group is here for, to help you figure all that out. Tosh, how about Lakanto monk fruit sweetener with erythritol? That's what we use here. We have a whole container full of it. So that stuff's good too. Monk fruit and stevia and erythritol are all really good sugar substitutes to use. Karen, I had to get off and you said this, but I caught it late. I'm eating vegan and I want to supplement my protein, like you said, with protein powders. I'm a female, age 64, and I'm down to my goal weight for a year and a half using Bright Line eating. Did you say on your formula I should multiply my kilograms by 1.5? Yeah, so if you're already at a normal body weight, then that 1.5 is going to be a minimum. If you're at that weight and you're just leisurely active, then that's a perfect amount. But if you are someone that is like super active, like you exercise a lot, then I would want to go all the way up to 2. But yeah, so whatever your weight is in kilograms, multiply it by 1.5 and eat that many grams of protein per day. Johanna, what are your thoughts on vegetable juice fasts? I guess your thoughts are it's not enough protein. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, vegetable juice might be a little better than water, but you're still not getting protein, and that's the only nutrient, literally the only nutrient that can sustain muscle tissue.
So what I would do if I wanted to do that is I would add protein powder to my vegetable juices.
Yeah. Or drink your juice in addition to eating a chicken breast. Tam, I'm 60 and have been taking more antioxidants since the Virgin's virus hit. Am I impeding fat loss while trying to be protective? They include vitamin C, NAC, and fossils. No, you're not impeding your fat loss at all by doing that. I think especially because you're 60 years old, it's just going to help counter the age-related increases in oxidative stress and inflammation, and you're doing great. Mon, I was told by my cellular detox coach not to use stevia. She says it gives my brain the wrong signals and keeps me in food cravings. Can you speak about stevia? It really helps me when I feel hungry, and an herbal tea with stevia satisfies me.
For us too.
This is okay. The reason that your cellular detox coach states that it gives your brain the wrong signals is because it is providing sweet taste without the associated calories that we were used to throughout evolutionary history. However, what has been shown in neuroimaging studies is that this brain confusion occurs only in people that are new to using these sugar substitutes. Mm-hmm. What happens with regular use, and by regular, I mean it happens in as little as after 2 weeks. The brain realizes and adapts and changes its signals when you ingest this so that it's not getting a false signal any longer. Your brain adapts to the food that you regularly eat, and that includes non-calorie sweet things. And I mean, really, if you're feeling hungry and having some stevia in tea satiates you, then I think that that's clearly evidence enough that it's not going to keep you in food cravings. Could it keep someone else craving foods and carbohydrates? Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone's different, and it's important to figure out what works for you, but it's not a blanket statement. If it satisfies you, that's evidence that it satisfies you. Kat, what is the secret to mind control? Well, I wish I could tell you.
Yeah, it really depends on the person and what their particular issues are, because that's too broad of a question.
Oh, you were actually answering it like how to control your own thoughts and like get in the right mental state. I was thinking of like actual mind control, like telekinesis or something.
Oh,
okay, well, I'm a dork. Am I? No, that was Tam's. Richard, how about probiotics? Is there a lot of confusion since some say yes and others say not necessary? Thank you.
Well, it depends on the strain, and there's research behind some of them for certain conditions. But as far as taking like a kitchen sink approach, I wouldn't do that. A lot of them aren't effective. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, okay, so probiotics run into a couple issues, and the first is that most of the strains that are being sold haven't been clinically tested for any actual outcome. Another issue is that a lot of them don't colonize your intestinal tract, they just move right through it. Can probiotics be useful for certain situations? Yeah, they can if you get the strain and the dose correct, but that's going to take a lot of kind of digging to see what is it specifically that you need help with, and then going and scouring the research to see if any specific strain has been tested against that.
What do you think about a fecal test for that then? If you want to personalize I think that's necessary.
I think that getting a fecal test to see what your microbiome composition is could be helpful to see where there could be potential problems and help you get an idea of what needs to be done to improve your microbiome's health.
Well, I think that's best. I think if you have like anxiety or depression, there is definitely strains that have been researched for those conditions, but for a lot of things there isn't, is what I meant.
I would agree with that. And to be blunt with you, the microbiome and doing all of that stuff is not an area where I'm well versed in the research. So I'm not going to sit there and try to answer questions or lie to you about my knowledge on the topic. Instead, frankly, if you did have some gut issue and you wanted to really get into the microbiome stuff, I would just recommend you to one of my colleagues that actually specializes in specifically addressing GI health and gut issues. And maybe you could work out how to set up a consult with them. Because I'm not gonna try and lie about my intelligence. I'll tell you when I don't know something. Denise, I was thinking of trying Huel. Ever heard of it? When I'm at the firehouse, I'm surrounded by men eating garbage foods. Higher stress and poor sleep. I'm thinking of having a complete food substitute could help me stay out of the kitchen and avoid temptation. As a meal replacement, any thoughts or better options?
I'm not familiar with that
Neither
brand.
of us are familiar with that brand. Speaking in general, I think using a meal replacement would be just fine, especially if it's going to help keep your food intake down.
Yeah.
I would mention that depending on your specific circumstances with your body composition, I would be hesitant to drastically reduce the amount of food you eat when you're working in the firehouse, because you're going to want to maintain ample energy levels to do your job. And obviously, fat loss is going to boost energy levels, but maybe, focusing on fat loss and under eating when you're actually working might not be the best strategy. So you might need to do some form of like cycling where you eat maintenance when you're in the firehouse and then do a little more aggressive dieting when you're not working in the firehouse on your days off, and then just rotate.
As far as the avoiding junk food in environments like that, it's the dieting mindset part of it will cover that. I worked in a salon for years, and so there was always donuts and junk food back there, and I never touched them.
Yeah, so I mean, part of it's just establishing habits too, making certain foods off limit. And my example for that, as gross as it might be, is if you're ever like going for a walk in the park and you see some dog poop, do you ever even have a thought remotely close to, oh, I want to go eat some? No, you don't, because it's not even an option in your brain. And that's ideally where you want to be with your mind state around certain foods. And our mindset lesson can help you get there. So that way you don't have to waste all of this energy and willpower, battling your desires. It just becomes habit and you don't even think about it anymore. Christine, comment, Alex, I tried your niacin thought from the other Q&A. I waited 2 hours after taking 100 milligrams and then jumped into the infrared sauna. I felt extra detoxed after. I know you referenced a higher dose such as 500, but I didn't want to overdo it if I wasn't used to it. Thanks again for the thoughtful answer from the other day. Also, thank you both again for your time. I hope we haven't gotten in the way of your hydration, since you two have been so kind with your time.
Well, we do have seltzer water right here.
Yeah, we have some seltzer water that we've taken a couple sips from. But no, we love doing these Q&As. Again, this is stuff that we are passionate about, and we love answering questions and being able to help you guys out. Ginny. Oh, and thank you for the kind words, Christine. They mean a lot to us. Ginny, for many years, I was a Weston Price follower, and they are big on high fat. I'm having a hard time getting away from that. It made sense to me at the time. It still might. How did the foundation get it so wrong then?
So I have a lot of background there, and I've been to a lot of the conferences. The people that participate in that aren't usually in the best health. Like, a lot of their leaders have cancers and the such, right?
Or they're overweight.
Overweight, diabetes, like, which makes sense in light of like high fat, high carb diets. How did they get it so wrong? Because they used observational data, right?
Yeah. Look, I think that Whitten A. Price, they did a lot of good by bringing awareness to the importance of things like fat soluble vitamins.
Well, and I still use their cookbooks for like when I cook. I just don't combine the heavy fats and starches.
Yeah, and so I mean, like everything, they got a lot right, but they got a lot wrong. And I think it's just because they went from trying to get the words of Whitten A. Price and his research findings, they went from getting that out to the public to becoming an organization that built their entire like financial success around those ideas. And so that made it so they couldn't no longer be objective on the issues.
Yep.
Because their livelihood depended on making sure those issues perpetuated. So I mean, yeah, and again, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with eating high fat. You could eat a high fat ketogenic diet and still lose fat mass as long as you respect energy balance. Is it ideal? Well, it might be for you, but maybe it's not.
Their foods aren't just high fat though, it's high fat with high carbs.
Yeah.
And so that is like, it is an improvement upon the standard American diet of donuts and stuff, but the food quality, yeah, it is better in that aspect. And it did open my mind. Like I learned how to make yogurt and sourdough and all that when I was into that. And so I came away with some good information, but that's not ideal health.
Yeah, and it's just not conducive to a good body composition. Sheila, help, I checked and my PayPal didn't go through. I've tried twice more to get the programs, but the button on our end won't work. Unfortunately, I don't, right below your comment, I have the email from Melinda. Please send her an email and she will get the whole thing sorted out. I'm sorry about that. Tam, haha, the predictive text coronavirus, that was from earlier. Jenny, I seem to have trouble digesting certain protein powders that I've tried so far: whey, rice protein, pea protein. I bloat. Can you think of one that is the least likely to cause that?
Yeah, that's common with vegan powders.
What about whey though?
Yeah, a whey isolate is what, I don't know why you're using the vegan powders. So if I'm saying something wrong, then just disregard it. But whey protein isolate is pretty easy on digestion.
It could be, you might have a little lactose intolerance if you're bloating with whey. And if that's the case, a whey isolate has almost zero lactose. The rice and pea proteins could cause bloating because of their not less digestible, but if they have any residual fibers in there.
And there's definitely more fibers in those.
Yeah. And, frankly, it could also just be an issue where maybe you have like low stomach acid, or you have low pepsin enzymes that are used to digest protein.
Yeah, when you use vegan powders, you're full for a very long time.
Yeah, when I use vegan powders, I'm
full
for I'm excessively full. So I stick with whey because it digests more quickly. But it could also be an issue where maybe you could use some digestive enzymes to help out. It really depends. I would definitely start with whey isolate and see how you do with that. Rachel, if you do high intensity exercise or resistance exercise fasted, where does your body get the energy from? Well, from itself. So, I mean, almost immediately, all of the creatine energy is going to be used up within the first 10 to 30 seconds of exercise. After that, you have a ton of glycogen stored in your liver and your muscle tissue that gets used for those muscle contractions. And then, you have some fat that comes off your body fat to fuel the exercise. Your body stores energy, and that's what it uses when you're fasted, regardless of whether you exercise or not. So if you want me to expand on that, just let me know. Christine, what are your thoughts on maca for helping to balance hormones?
Well, I love it.
She loves it. I think that it can be, I wouldn't say it helps balance hormones as a general statement. I think it can be beneficial for helping with mood state, helping with estrogen detoxification, possibly increasing testosterone, but definitely increasing libido. A lot of people get like libido mixed up with their sex hormones, but you don't need to have changes in your sex hormones in order to have an increased sex drive. And that's what maca is best researched for, is increasing libido and sex drive. Christine, by the way, you two make a great team. We can really see the respect you have for each other. Oh, thank you. Okay, many thanks to you guys for this session. Would you please comment on Dr. Pompah's protocol? I learned of him through Ari. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so yeah, unfortunately I can't comment on it. But if you join our program and ask in the Facebook group, then 100% I can spend some time Googling it and looking it up for you and commenting. Sheila, I have bloating with energenesis and I'm vegan. Well, I would have to go look at the ingredients of it to see. There could be some off ingredient in it that's causing the issue for you. But I mean, off the top of my head, unfortunately, I can't think of anything. When you do get that payment issue figured out and you get into the group, definitely bring this up again and we can figure out what's wrong. So I want to use this to mention that we have 30 minutes left. And so I have several more questions, but if the questions continue to come through, we're just going to try and answer them just a little more quickly to make sure we get through all of them. So Steph, I can't have whey or pea protein due to allergies. What about pumpkin or hemp protein? Any other protein isolates you would recommend to those of us with dairy and legume allergies?
Well, I wouldn't use pumpkin or hemp because they're less bioavailable and complete, but I think that there is, I can't remember what Sun Warrior has in it, but they do have a cranberry protein. You could try that. And it has some other ones in there. It has rice, I think, too.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steph. You get this program, you join that Facebook group and you copy and paste this question into a comment. And once it's in there, I will go scour Amazon to find you the most affordable, ideal vegan protein powder that doesn't use legumes. Okay? Because I can't think of any brands off the top of my head, since vegan protein powders often use combinations of a bunch of different things. I would need to look through each one of their ingredients label to find one.
And they use a combination because of the amino acid profile, and that's why I'm saying that pumpkin or hemp isn't enough to use in isolation for protein.
Yeah, you want to combine proteins when it's vegan because they tend to lack in one or more amino acids that other vegan sources of protein can make up for. Now, I will say, though, off the top of my head, if you're not vegan and if you simply can't tolerate dairy, you could look into getting an egg white protein isolate. Yeah. Where they just extract the protein out of eggs and use that. And that would be a really solid source of protein too. Bobby, I am also wondering about fat in order to rebuild cell structure and cell membrane. Bobby, if you're still on, could you retype that as more of a question? Because I'm not entirely sure what you're asking. Dietary fat in general is important for cell membranes, but just eating dietary fat is not going to rebuild cell structures and cell membranes. What does that is using very specific types of phospholipids, like NT factors, which is present in energenesis, has been actually used in what's called lipid replacement therapy, where it's a special type of phospholipid that actually enters into cell membranes and into the mitochondrial membrane to replace damaged ones. Super efficient. It's an amazing supplement, but as far as dietary fat goes, it's not like, just like when you eat protein, it's not going to go to your bicep and make them pop. When you eat dietary fat, it's not just going to go to your cell membranes and help rebuild them. Jeannie, when I'm eating 3 times per day at my lower protein requirement in a 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. window, I'm still feeling full before my next meal. Should I back off the veggies so it's half protein on my plate?
No, being full is a good thing. how much weight do you want to lose? Are you trying to maintain your weight? Because that'll matter right here. You could eat less vegetables or more calorie dense vegetables. That's what I usually have my men clients do, is just eat calorie dense vegetables. But it's good that you're full if you're trying to diet.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the things is so many
Start with
people
protein.
typically undereat protein that when they increase their amounts, they say, I'm so full, I can't even eat all my food. And my response is always, well, isn't that what you want? To make it through the day, satiated to where you don't even want to eat? Because that's what's going to lead to lifelong fat loss right there. So I would take advantage of that. I would enjoy your meal, but if you can't finish it, then don't.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and think you have to. Don't stress over it. Just say, I can't finish this meal.
Yeah, and as you get leaner too, your leptin drops when your body fat drops, and you will be ravenously hungry. Like, I promise you'll be able to finish all your food. But in the beginning, usually most people can't.
I want to just quickly expand on that. I don't want to say you'll be ravenously hungry. What I want to say is that your hunger levels will gradually increase as you become leaner, as your leptin levels drop. And so what you're eating right now might make you full, but I mean, several months from now, if you're, way lighter and you have lower leptin levels, then you're going to probably be able to eat all that food just because you're.
Yeah, it depends on how lean.
That's just how biology works. And so it depends on how lean you want to get. Okay, so Sarai, so whey protein doesn't raise glucose. Also, it is dairy. I have a dairy allergy. Yeah, whey protein is dairy. If you have a dairy allergy, then we need to figure out, is it an actual allergy or is it lactose intolerance? If it's just lactose intolerance, a whey protein isolate doesn't contain lactose and you'll be fine. If it's a dairy allergy, what component of dairy? So dairy allergies can be towards the whey component or they can be towards the casein component, because there's two types of protein in dairy, whey and casein. Maybe if you're allergic to casein, if that's the case, whey protein is fine. But if you're allergic to whey, then you can't use it. So, just generally speaking, yeah, if you have a dairy allergy, avoid dairy. That makes sense. But if you really want to get nuanced about it, try to figure out what it is specifically you're allergic to. And you can figure that out by just working with your healthcare practitioner.
Yeah, or I mean, if you want to experiment around yourself, you can go to a vitamin store and buy single serving packets of different types of protein powders.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. See, what a genius for a wife. Yeah, just buy a single serving of whey, try it and see if you start to have a reaction. If you do, then you're allergic to whey, but if not, then you're good to go. Paulette, I'm joining. See you on Facebook. Well, I'll see you there, Paulette. I expect many questions, so bring them at me. Marie, I like the question about maca. Are there any downsides to maca? Can it cause an imbalance? Also, how much is a good starting dose?
Well, it has goitrogens, so I would definitely always get the gelatinized.
Yep.
Is that how you say it? And as far as hormonal imbalances, I've never heard of them causing that. So a starting dose, I would start at 1 teaspoon and work yourself up to a tablespoon or 2 a day.
Perfect. Steph, thanks so much, you two. Really appreciate all you do. I'll see you on the Facebook group. Looking forward to seeing you there, Steph. Christine, what are your thoughts on colostrum? Would that be okay for those who are dairy sensitive? My thoughts on colostrum.
I'm fine with it, and I have dairy sensitivities, so.
It's a maybe. My thoughts on colostrum outside of the sensitivity are that it's amazing. It's great for benefiting immune function and gastrointestinal health. However, if you are sensitive to dairy, then it's a maybe. It's one of those things where you need to experiment with it to see if you do fine with it.
And that's, if you're dairy sensitive, I definitely wouldn't recommend using like a cheaper version because they usually cut quality and there's like other milk solids in there and stuff. And so you don't want that.
All right, Angela, you may have already answered this, but if you haven't, could you address loose skin with weight loss? Yeah, I did already address it earlier, but I'll give you a quick hit answer here again. It's loose skin is mostly determined by genetics and how elastic someone's skin and collagen is. Some people can lose a ton of weight and have no loose skin. Others lose a little bit of weight and have all the loose skin. There's nothing really special that you can do about it. Fasting, for example, is often promoted as a solution for loose skin, but there's no evidence it works. And there's no biologically plausible explanation for why it would work, because skin protein turnover is maintained in the fasting state, whereas most amino acids come from muscle tissue. So you're not breaking down a lot of skin when you're fasted, and the skin you do break down is immediately replaced. What you could do is, from a nutritional standpoint, take hydrolyzed collagen supplements, which have been shown to boost skin collagen turnover and synthesis, and also use red light therapy to strengthen those collagen strands in the skin itself. But fundamentally, with loose skin, most people that have loose skin do need to go in for surgery to have it removed. That's one of the unfortunate truths. But I mean, when they have it done, it looks amazing afterwards, especially when they combine it with things like red light therapy and hydrolyzed collagen supplementation. Bobby, you covered it. What phospholipid supplement do you recommend? I don't have a recommendation. I just say to use Energenesis because,
well, I think it's the most cost effective too. I have looked into it.
Yeah, because what the thing is that the supplements out there are all really expensive. They're probably as expensive, if not more, as Energenesis. But Energenesis isn't just giving you this one single phospholipid thing. It's also giving you 14 other supplements that bolster mitochondrial health. So, I mean, if you're going to get a phospholipid supplement, get Energenesis, because it has that plus a bag of chips. Yeah, I know you're all laughing at me right now, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll accept it.
We don't eat chips.
All right, and that was our very last question. So we have 18 minutes left. Christine, what ratio of collagen to vitamin C grams do you think is optimal per day? I really appreciate how nuanced you both are. So the optimal dose of collagen is going to be 10 to 15 grams per serving. And you can do that either once per day, or you can do that twice per day, so that your total daily dose is anywhere from 20 to 30 grams per day. As far as vitamin C, you actually don't need much. If you're using vitamin C exclusively for collagen, it can be as little as 50 milligrams.
I take a lot more than that.
Yeah, Briana takes a lot more than that for health reasons. But you know, I would just say it's as easy as take some vitamin C, but then focus on getting that correct amount of collagen. Is there a collagen that would help build bone density for osteoporosis? From Sasha. Yeah, the same exact type of collagen. So here's the thing. Hydrolyzed collagen comes from the skin of animals. And that's because hydrolyzed collagen is mostly collagen type 1. Collagen type 1 is the collagen that makes up 80% of the collagen in your body. It's the type that is the collagen, primary form of collagen in your skin, in your bones, and throughout all of your organs. So when I say take hydrolyzed collagen, I say that because that is literally the general health tonic when it comes to collagen. And it increases collagen synthesis in your skin, in your joints, and in your bone tissue. And those radioactive studies, radioactive isotope tracer studies I've mentioned previously, that's how we know that. And the dose would be the same. It would, and by dose, I mean 10 to 15 grams in a single serving boosts whole body collagen synthesis. So that would be the same dose whether you're caring for your skin or your bones or whatever. Christine, does the collagen count as part of protein intake or not really? I think it really depends. So I wouldn't count it. Why? Because collagen is primarily just, I would count the calories because it does supply energy, but I wouldn't count it towards your protein intake, because collagen is mostly just 3 out of 20 amino acids. It's not going to do anything like,
won't help build muscle.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's completely deficient in one amino acid. So if you actually put someone on a diet where the only source of protein was pure collagen, they would die because they would have a zero intake of one of the essential amino acids. I like to think of collagen as sand. So if you have a bottle filled with rocks, those rocks are your dietary protein intake. Those are what fill up the bulk of that bottle. But most of those protein sources are really deficient in the amino acids supplied by collagen. So when you pour collagen into that container, you're not adding more rocks, you're adding sand that fills in the gaps left by the big players, which is going to be, the real protein, the protein powders, the meat, the fish, the high protein vegetables, that type of thing. Sarah, when you say red light therapy, I hope you're referring to infrared sauna. Do you prefer short or long wave infrared light? When we say red light therapy, infrared sauna is included in that, but we're talking about the type of red and infrared light therapy that you could get with something like a Juve, or the red and infrared lights that are recommended by Ari. As far as preference for short or long wave, I have no idea. The Juve is red and shortwave infrared light, so I guess that would be our preference because that's what we use. Melanie, is there anything in particular? Okay, we have 15 minutes left. Is there anything in particular that can be done to help flatten my stomach postpartum?
I would do fat loss first, but abdominal training, direct abdominal training will help. It depends on if your abdominal wall was tore too, because if that's the case, then you're always going to have a little bit of a poochy tummy. But there's things that we can do to tighten that up, and fat loss is like paramount to all of that. Okay,
let's see. Kay, when is the best time of day to take turmeric? I've read conflicting opinions. I have a turmeric vitamin D supplement from Organics supplement. I wouldn't say there is an ideal time of day for something like that. I would say take turmeric with a meal that contains fat because the curcuminoids in it are lipid soluble. But generally speaking, you're not going to be absorbing a lot of curcumin from pure turmeric because it has very poor bioavailability. And that's why many curcumin supplements you'll find are actually complexed with other compounds that increase the ability to absorb them. Christine, Briana, how much vitamin C do you take per day? Your skin looks beautiful.
Thank
you. I know, right? I'm sure it is probably from all the other great things you do as well.
Yes, so I take 8 to 10 grams a day. I'm going to tell you why. I have melanoma, and so it's very big in my health protocol, vitamin C. And I have a lot of oxidative stress. I'm always doing like things that I probably shouldn't be doing, like cardio. Thank you, though. It is a whole lifestyle thing, though. And like Alex said, we're writing a book, and I went into all that. So that's about it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention too that she takes a lot of vitamin C, but it's split up across 3 or 4 meals per day.
Yeah, and this is something that I've experimented with for 15 years. And that is one supplement that I do not go without because of the quality of my skin when I take that much. And I worked higher than that, and then I worked lower, and I found my sweet spot there. And this is all while watching my labs, so I know it's not doing any damage to me.
All right, Christine, wow, great answer on collagen protein, thanks. Well, thank you, Christine. Maureen, I have both a red light that has near and infrared light, but also a sauna with near, mid, and far. I've been unsure how to combine these since it seems like there's overlap. How do you combine? I'm gonna have to defer this one to Ari. If you're a member of the Energy Blueprint group, then definitely ask in there so that you can get a response from Ari or one of the coaches that are going to be much more intelligent on red light than I am. If you join the Fat Loss Blueprint, ask in there because we could tie it back into fat loss for you. And Ari's also in there answering questions, so you could get a definite answer there. Ginny, this is super exciting. I can't wait to start. Thank you both a lot. Ginny, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm excited you're there. Maureen, you guys rock, so knowledgeable, and ditto on Briana's skin. Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Angela, your cat's paws are so cute. Oh. Okay, well,
She's a baby.
here.
Like, she's a baby. She acts like a baby. She's not a cat. Yes, those are
Those are
nail caps.
little nail caps to prevent her from scratching. That just shed off with the natural shedding of her nails, and then we put a new one on. Christine, Ari wrote a great book about red light infrared. Can't wait for the upcoming book you three are writing. Oh, I know. His book is the best out there. It's the only book as comprehensive on red light as it can be. So using that knowledge, I mean, just wait until you see this book on sunlight. I'll give you a little teaser. We wrote the chapter on how sunlight benefits metabolic health. That's just one chapter, and that chapter alone is 50 pages long with over 250 references on how every single aspect of sunlight, every bioactive ray benefits metabolic health, including that often erroneously demonized UV radiation.
Yes.
Cynthia, how did you guys and Ari find each other? I wish Ari was here to tell the story, honestly. So about a year before we actually started working together, he made a Facebook post where he said, I'm looking for a new writer to help write with me. Someone that's like Alex Leaf, and referring to me because he had been following my work at examine.com. And so later that year, that was in like February. And then in December, I actually reached out to him to see if he would be interested in working together so that I could help him write. And we got a good laugh out of that post, which we had both forgotten about. So we've just been following each other's work for a while, and then we decided it would be mutually beneficial if we put our brains together.
And we met through Facebook too, me and Alex, in a nutrition group. This was over 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, where's my time limit at? We have 10 minutes left. Oh, can you hit that X?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, Cynthia, when is the book coming out? How do we find out about it? I have no idea when it's going to come out. Definitely by the end of this year, I'm hoping, but that's on Ari. So you guys need to just spam his inbox and tell him to get on that. But I will definitely be telling the entire group and sending out emails and stuff because that's something we're really excited about. Norma, Alex and Briana, you and Ari are amazingly knowledgeable and so helpful. I am signing up, and Gaia is the sale closer. I own 2 Cornish Rexes, and Rexes are wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh my God, you recognized her. Yeah, she's our little Devon Rex. She doesn't even act like a cat. I mean, look at her.
Cornish Rexes are cute.
She's a little baby. Yeah, we love her to death. I'm glad that she could close the sale for us. Okay, so we have 8 minutes left. Sarah, how does one fast on protein? Sorry, I bet you've already answered this. Sarah, the thing is that you don't fast in the technical sense because fasting requires consuming no calorie producing nutrients. It's more like a fasting mimicking diet, but for every single benefit that we know of that comes from fasting doesn't come from not eating anything per se. It comes from causing an extreme energy deficit. And so when you eat sufficient protein, you're still allowing your body to get that extreme energy deficit. It's just you're able to preserve muscle tissue in the process. And that's why the researchers call it a protein sparing modified fast, because they developed it in order to modify a fast so that you don't lose as much muscle. Marjorie, how many people are in the group? I want to say we're getting up to 200 so far, which I mean, we're really happy about. The program's been out for 3 to 4 days now, and so it's only going to keep growing. Christine, will you be talking about the prevention and reducing age spots in your upcoming book? Yep, we have a whole chapter on that. Yep. Cynthia, I live in the Northwest with little sunlight. I feel like I need a satellite. Do you have one you recommend? A what? A satellite. Yeah, we do. There's products called Happy Light. We can, if you ask that,
the brand.
You can ask that in the Facebook group, either in the Fat Loss Blueprint or the Energy Blueprint. We can help you out. We have an entire chapter in our upcoming book that actually talks about how to hack your indoor lighting to both mimic sunlight and take advantage of the natural circadian rhythms in light.
It's a Verilux.
It's a Verilux. So the happy lights that we have are called Verilux.
But that doesn't produce vitamin D. The Spurdy light is the only one that's FDA approved for vitamin D production.
Yes, exactly. Marine, I'm sorry, you just said this, but I missed total vitamin C Briana mentioned. Sorry, can you repeat the daily amount? Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
This is personalized, but 8 to 10 grams.
8 to 10 grams split across 3 to 4 meals.
Yep.
But it is, again, personalized for her specific circumstances because she is very active. So she has high levels of oxidative stress and she also has melanoma. And so we're trying to manage that. Okay, so we're coming up on 5 minutes left. Okay, hello again. 20 years ago, I was told at the gym that people with a fat belly should not do abdominal exercises until they've lost some size because it will firm up in the wrong shape. Does that make any sense?
Okay, so I've heard that before as well. And the reason they say that is because you start building abdominal muscle and it can temporarily push on the fat and make you appear like you have more abdominal fat. As far as it looking weird or shaped weird, like that's not going to happen. You just have to bear with it that the muscle tissue is going to be pushing on that fat and it may appear like your belly's a little bigger for the time being, but you're going to be addressing the fat loss aspect, so it's not permanent.
Yeah, so it's not a problem. Sarah, thank you. I'm finishing up a 3-day water fast. I hear you. So keep the same amount of protein and eat only that protein to fast. Can I do it unmonitored 7-day fast with protein? Yes, that's exactly what you need to do. Yes, you can do it unmonitored. My only advice would be to take a multivitamin when you do it to cover any residual nutrient requirements, and also be sure to salt your food and possibly use potassium supplements.
I wouldn't say possibly. I would say it's very important to get something like low salt at your grocery store and use that in place of salt. It's like 50-50 sodium potassium. Yeah,
great advice, because you really want to ensure that you're not going to give yourself an electrolyte imbalance. Marine, got it. Thank you. Okay, and so we have 4 minutes left. I'm not going to answer any more questions at this point because I think I want to use this last 4 minutes to really wrap things up. We still have 58 people on the call, and I just want to thank you all for sticking through it. This thing was another 4-hour-long Q&A that I'm sure many people are going to enjoy. I hope all of you got some good information out of it, and I'm sure other people listening will. And I mean, for those of you that decided to really dive in and get the Fat Loss Blueprint, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Facebook group. And again, once you get the program, that Facebook group is all yours. Unlimited access to my brain, Briana's brain, and Ari's brain for the rest of your life. You don't even need to ask us about fat loss. We can just, we can talk about anything you need as far as help. Like, we're at your service. And so I really, really hope that you will take the opportunity to give the program a try. Because if you're not satisfied with the program or with the help that we provide in the Facebook group, then you have 30 days to get a 100% money back, no questions asked refund. It's literally zero risk. Make the investment. If you're on the fence, just make the investment. And if you end up not liking it, then just get your money back. And it's that simple. There's literally zero risk on your end. And it is the most comprehensive program out there. There's nothing out there like it. We tried to find other fat loss programs just so we could see what is it that they're trying to do. And they don't exist. All the other programs out there either sell you on one dogmatic ideological diet or exercise routine, and none of them address any of the numerous other aspects of being a successful long-term weight loss maintainer. And that includes mindset, and that includes stress management, sleep, exercise, flux, protein intake. I mean, there's just so much. Getting in the right dieting mindset. We have a lot of content in here. It's 18 lessons, and it's only going to continue to grow as everyone has an opportunity to tell me, and to tell us what is it missing. It's not perfect right now, but it can be, and I need your help to make it that way. So with that, I'm going to end this call, and thank you. Thank you all so much for joining in and listening.
Yes, thank you.